the everyday Hogwarts player. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601, The Warrior of Hogwarts. This is a boy who looks very inconspicuous. Black hair, brown eyes. Her facial features can only be described as regular, but she is forgotten at first sight. However, Castrubesh's students seemed supportive. The headmaster, Novinci Vakhanova, who had a world-weary face on the stage, narrowed her narrow eyes in joy. Not to mention the black-skinned version of Dumbledore, who stood up and applauded excitedly. But the students of Hogwarts were frozen in place because of this name. But there are others who are still immersed in Hibiscus's magical charm. Ron is one of them. Ravenclaw table. Harry suddenly turned to Ron. Zachary's, he said he hadn't fainted, he would have been furious. Did you hear me? Hufflepuff Wervis. The boy was named after the founder of his school in Hufflepuff. Ron finally came to his senses. There are still people called Hufflepuff in this era. Ron smacked his lips. During the 300 years since the death of the four giants, such a custom did exist. But now, even the most fanatical fans of the Big Four would not give their children such names. Because it's outdated. But Ron found that this guy looked calm and unhurried as he walked towards the room behind the staff. He didn't seem to care at all about what a ridiculous name he was now known by. Lisa Dupin and Padma, who were standing by, had their eyes red with emotion. But Padma stood up and sang in a curry-flavored voice, the Sorting Hat song. A closer look at the warrior of Castrubuse, their Hogwarts. The same is true for Slytherin. They were even quite disdainful. Of the Big Four, they only recognized the highly intelligent Ravenclaw, and Slytherin, represented by their house name. Ace for Gryffindor, reckless. Hufflepuff, idiot. The offspring of a wizard who is related to a fool. Why should they care either? Hogwarts is the most powerful magic school in the world. Even the corrupt Hogwarts led by Dumbledore, their enemy, was like this. The Durmstrang students next to the Slytherin table looked listless. The students of Bookspluttons, who were sitting in the farthest corner, were also not interested in the warriors from other academies. Especially since he doesn't look that good. Gryffindor, or are more willing to pretend. They clapped softly. Until Hufflepuffova walked into the room behind the staff desk. The auditorium returned to silence. Almost all the students at Hogwarts looked at Dumbledore. This is the last warrior who belongs to them. Patchman expertly. A confident smile appeared on his face. The champion of Hogwarts is our 13-year-old Harry Potter. Snape gave an unpracticed smile at the staff table. Professor Flitwick slid excitedly from the cushions to the ground and disappeared. Hagrid turned his back to Madame Maxime and secretly wiped away his tears of excitement. I knew it. Ron said his catchphrase loudly again. Ginny threw herself on top of Harry. Neville, Anthony and other Harry's roommates gathered around. The other Ravenclaw students in Harry's year all told stories about how hard Harry worked, taking them to and from getting out of class all day to prevent Peeves from attacking them. Once, Wayne, a short, fat man wearing thick glasses, read on the tracks of the Beast in the lounge and actually cried. Harry's Quidditch teammates Roger, Cho Zhang, Henry, Phoenix and others stood up, shouting the full name of Harry and the Ravenclaw Quidditch team over and over again. Dean, Seamus and others who usually chatted with Harry started slamming the table. It seems that whoever bangs the table louder represents the one who likes Harry more. Fred and George pulled Percy to the center of the Ravenclaw and Gryffindor tables and shouted, "This is the Weasley family's son-in-law. Our sister Ginny's fiancé." At the Hufflepuff table, Dudley took advantage of his own prestige in his own house and took the lead in waving his fist to show his support for Harry. He shouted, "He's my cousin. A warrior from the Dursley family." Most of the Slytherin students clapped modestly. But the blush on their faces still showed their joy. We have always admired the strong, and warriors are not in the situation of Gryffindor, our enemy college table. Harry, you are the best. Behind him, Crabbe and Goyle were like two gate gods, clapping and glaring at the students who dared to show dissatisfaction with Draco's behavior. Beside him, Pansy clapped enthusiastically with an awkward smile. Students from the other three colleges also applauded because of Harry's worldwide fame, screaming and stamping their feet. Ginny pushed slightly away after he had broken away from the welcome of his acquaintances. He walked towards the room behind the staff desk, amidst the crowd of people trying to shake his hand. The cheers for Harry continued for a long time until he disappeared from everyone's sight. It took a long time before Dumbledore got everyone to quiet down and listen to him. Excellent. Champions have been chosen. I know I can count on all of you, including the other students at Boxbuttons, Durmstrang, and Castellibus, to support your champions with all your might. In the subsequent team competitions, you will definitely give us wonderful performances. Chapter 602 Commercialized Events. Dumbledore paused, because, when he mentioned the team competition, the auditorium, which had finally quieted down, began to stir again. Only then did they realize that they were also part of the competition. Even those students who had seemed sad or frustrated because they didn't become warriors smiled a little. It is the war magic that you have been learning in the past month. It will take place on October 10th of this month. Each of you is a participant in this game. As for the individual competitions that you are most concerned about, you all know when it started. Dumbledore winked. This moment, in that room, the same words were heard. But the person who said this was Arthur Weasley. It all started when Harry entered that room, and found himself in a small room with portraits of wizards on both walls. A fire was burning brightly in the fireplace. The wrinkled witch began to bite his ear quietly. The fire. Against the backdrop of the flames, the three figures made a particularly strong impression. Krum was leaning against a tablecloth, hunched over, thinking about something, keeping a slight distance from the other two. Hufflepuff she stood with her hands behind her back, staring into the fire, also far away from the other two. Fleur Delacour conjured up a chaise longue made of vines, and placed her slender body on it. Her beautiful eyes were closed, as if she was dozing off. When Harry walked in, Krum turned quickly and walked towards Harry. Then there was a bear hug. I knew it was you, Harry. Thank you. Hufflepuff Alvis remained in that position, outer long, white fingers and lightly pointed toward the recliner. The vines that made up the lounge chair began to wither one by one and dissipate into the air. She slid down from the recliner that was about to disappear with an elegant dance-like posture, and stood up slowly. She turned her head and shook her long hair that sounded like a waterfall with silver light. The time has come. Spun out of it and landed steadily on the carpet. The man wiped his black top hat and put it on quickly. He looked directly at Harry. I knew it was you. Harry, who was reminiscing with Krum, looked up in surprise. Why are you here? These two positions were Barty Crouch and Ludo Bagman. They both went to Azkaban. Although Ludo was released from prison because of the less serious crime. But it's not a good reputation. Ms. Bones decided to let me represent the Ministry of Magic. After all, you know, at this point he realized there were other people present. You should also know that I am a member of the Order of the Phoenix. Your Excellency can just tell me why the Ministry of Magic asked you to come here. Fleur Delacour shook her hair impatiently. Mr. Weasley turned his black hat nervously on his head. I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Arthur Weasley, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement at the Ministry of Magic. You should all be aware that the 4 finals tournament was proposed by Durmstrang and organized by our British Ministry of Magic. This competition, your individual competition will be recorded by the Department of Magical Sports and broadcast nationwide. You should know about video recording. It is an invention of Muggles, which can record the footage of your game. The broadcast was via television, also a Muggle invention. There are many magic props merchants selling them now, among which Skywalker Alchemy Workshop makes the best transformation. In short, everything you do will be seen by audiences across the country. Schools, 50% belongs to Skywalker Alchemy Workshop, 20% belongs to the Ministry of Magic, the remaining 10%, 3 floors belong to the Department of International Cooperation of the Ministry of Magic. The 7th floor belongs to the Department of Magical Sports and Games. Harry interrupted quickly. Can you tell me this? I mean, does this have anything to do with us? I'm confused. As for you, the winner among you will receive a reward of 1,000 gold galleons. Mr. Weasley had expected to scare everyone. I have paused deliberately. But none of the 4 people were surprised. This bonus, which is worth about 20 RMB, did not move them at all. Fleur's family was rich. So was Harry. Krum is a world Quidditch star, and this amount of money is only 1/10 of his lowest endorsement. As for Elvis, as a descendant of the founder of Castrobus, he was not short of gold galleons. In response, Mr. Weasley could only smile awkwardly and continued, the Skywalker Alchemy Workshop will also collect statistics on the content of the competition. If the ratings meet the requirements, We will also produce and sell your peripheral products. 10% of the profit will belong entirely to you. Don't worry, this is all a signed magic contract. The contract was established when the goblet of fire sprayed out your note. So, our performance in this match will be, as you say, broadcast live. Then the point of this game is not to win. British wizarding community is not to mention. The market may also include the countries of the other 3 magic schools including Durmstrang. Chapter 603 The Great Skywalker. Harry's mind was now filled with the name Skywalker Workshop. His boss Skywalker was undoubtedly a great wizard. I have invented the talking book. The various strange props and derailment in the books it contains are the ladder of human progress. Only by studying hard can we make progress every day. Fly in the sky on a bamboo dragonfly. The underwater breathing tube allows wizards to have fun underwater. Not to mention these, after the Muggle World Prop Transformation Act was passed, he built a cinema that was far superior to the Muggle world, where real people could enter the scenes in the movies. It enriches the spiritual world of wizards whose magic level is low and who are unable to imagine themselves. Pinsevere also encourages and supports his employees to start their own businesses. With the help of Skywalker Alchemy Workshop, Stephen Water established Water Construction Company, which used self-developed new magic and technology to produce materials. The mansion at 10 Rose Road that Sirius gave him was the work of Water Construction Company. The buildings in Diagon Alley, which have been almost completely renovated and now look like the future world of science fiction novels, were also made using materials from their company now. This great company is joining the competition again now. Even Harry, who was a little averse to the tournament because he thought it might hinder his mother's resurrection, couldn't help but look forward to this competition. But Harry was a little confused about one thing: why didn't the team competition adopt the live broadcast method, only used in individual competitions? And just when Harry was immersed in his own world, Mr. Weasley finished saying the same thing as Professor Dumbledore outside. When does the first event of the team competition start? And its specific content is a secret. It is a cliché to test a warrior's courage and magical skills. At this time, Mr. Weasley began to talk about the individual competition. In addition to the basic insider information such as dividends, the first project will be conducted on November 11th and will be completed in front of other students and the judging panel. When completing the competition items, the warriors, that is, you, shall not request or accept any help from their teachers. When a warrior faces a challenge, the only weapons in his hand are his own wand, the blessing of the war magic of the wizards in his school, the potions and alchemical props he made, a warrior suit specially used for competitions. Facing the first round of challenges, the first 2 will serve as weapons for the warriors. You will not learn about the second project until the first one is completed. Because the competition is so demanding and lasts so long, you won't have to take the annual exams. Weasley had barely finished speaking when the door behind them opened and a large group of people came in. Professor Dumbledore, followed closely by Madame Volcanova, Karkaroff, Madame Maxime, and Professor Flitwick. Before Professor Flitwick closed the door behind him, Harry heard the buzz of several hundred students coming from the adjacent Great Hall. "Arthur, are you done?" Dumbledore asked as soon as he came in. The principals of the other schools, except Karkaroff, walked towards the warriors of their own houses and pulled them aside. Harry saw this and quickly held Karm's hand, wanting him to feel that he was not alone. Great friendship. Professor Flitwick, who was about to come forward to ask about the well-being of the children from his own college, was so moved that his eyes were red. "Take exams or do homework were all explained." "Then I have nothing to say to these children," said Dumbledore, looking at Mr. Weasley with some concern. "Will you stay at Hogwarts tonight? That way you can see the children." Harry could see that Mr. Weasley was a little tempted, but he still refused. "No, Molly has already made onion soup for me at home. Percy and the others are very independent. Ginny and Ron are with Harry." Ron's reaction when he heard this. He must have said something like, "He is also independent." Dumbledore sighed regretfully and looked at the principals of other schools. "Do you have any concerns about the competition?" They shook their heads. Madame Maxime walked out of the room holding Fleur in her arms. Harry could hear them talking rapidly in French as they walked towards the Great Hall. That looked tough to deal with actually revealed a look of respect. The last Karkaroff. "Due to the presence of Dumbledore and other professors. Period. I'm sure that the Ravenclaw students are waiting to celebrate with you. They've finally got an excuse to make a big scene, and it's really wrong to take away their opportunity. But today is Saturday. Our lessons will continue." Dumbledore waved his wand, And in the absence of flue powder, the fire turned green. Repeat after me, headmaster's office. However, the faint burning sensation on his back made Harry turn his head. It was a ball of green flame floating in the air. It is gradually losing its green color. I was going to help you down. This ball of fire was created by me before, serves as a gateway to the Flue network after all. I don't use it on a daily basis. Fawkes is here, said Headmaster Dumbledore. He waved his wand and the flames dissipated into thin air. So, you already knew I was a warrior. Of course, who else could it be but you? Hagrid isn't really a student right now. Chapter 604 Magic Array. Time: 7:15, in the principal's office. Harry, today's class is a follow-up to the last class. In your last class, you learned unique combat methods for dealing with large magical creatures besides the phoenix and dragons. I will explain its principle to you in this class. Dumbledore paused. You should know that I am well informed. Harry agreed. But he didn't know what this had to do with what he was going to talk about today. So I've also heard about your, Draco's, and Ron's speculations. It was in the Forbidden Forest. Harry's heart skipped a beat, then he was relieved when he heard the word Forbidden Forest, and you guessed that the person who killed the unicorn was Voldemort. And he recovered well. Because it was easy to kill the powerful unicorn. After all, the unicorn is classified as XXXX, dangerous, requires specialized knowledge, can only be dealt with by skilled wizards. However, you guessed wrong that Voldemort had not recovered well at that time. He simply used high-end combat methods against the magic of magical creatures class today. It is to tell you how the lock of magical creatures was discovered. At this point, Dumbledore waved his wand. Silk threads appeared in the air, outlining a simple magic circle. I just said that the magic of magical creatures is not like that of wizards, which is very simple. It is also because of this that some irregular magical patterns appear in their bodies. By the way, let me digress here and say that there are no wizards. Our magic is complex yet consistent. This results in the fact that there is no single magic pattern in our body. Instead, the whole body is filled with balanced magic power. The magic circle in midair was split apart, changing from a flat surface to a three-dimensional one, and then into regular magic patterns. It was first recorded in history that an unknown wizard scholar in ancient Greece discovered this. After studying a large number of magical creatures, these patterns were assembled one by one. Just like I just showed you, do it backwards. The magic circle was discovered creatures. Others are created by our wizards who separated the magical creatures from the magical circles, split them up, and tested them one by one. The combat methods against general magical creatures that you learned in the last class also originated from this. Through concise magic circles, wizards can more clearly find the weaknesses of the magical animals represented by the magic circles. What you are learning is the method of forging the key to the lock composed of overlapping parts of the magical biological array. However, not all magical creatures have been cracked. Some of the magic circles they represent have not even been deciphered. Unicorns are one of them. And how did Voldemort? Isn't this contradictory? Harry asked in confusion. Not contradictory at all. Voldemort is completely aware of magic through his own perception. He used his high level of magic to deal with the unicorn like he was totally using the unicorn as a lock. His magic spread as fast as water through a keyhole, then froze. Cast into an ice key. And it is easier to destroy than to create. Is that so? Then does Fawkes, the Phoenix, have a magic circle? Harry looked at Fawkes with burning eyes. This caused Fawkes to shake his head from side to side in displeasure. The Phoenix also has no magic circle. It is singular to the extreme. Just like Plutosaurus, it doesn't have it either. I had this feeling during the summer vacation. After all, if you encounter a powerful magical creature, it would be a shame not to try this. Maybe we can use magic circles to break down his talent and turn it into interesting spells. Dumbledore winked mischievously. Why is this? I have speculated on this. Perhaps every magical creature has this potential. When their single magical property is trained to the extreme, all traces of magic in their bodies will disappear, and then, like us wizards, what is the order of the magical creatures and magic circles? The magic came first and then the magic circle. Harry, I just said that complete magical patterns are often not found within the body of the magical creature that is the magic circle. Usually we studied the patterns in the bodies of hundreds of the same magical creatures, and combined them one by one into three-dimensional striped circle. Oh, I have to remind you, I know Hagrid has already provided you with the content of the first event 1-on-1 to subdue a dragon. However, Dragons are also magical creatures that cannot be dealt with by any combat methods, because you can only temporarily reduce its magic. But the dragon relies more on its strong body. And dragon flame isn't just the effect of magic. Upon hearing this, Dumbledore waved his wand, and the magic patterns in the air disappeared into the air. Then he put his wand into his arms, crossed his hands, and the muscles on his face froze, as if he was trying to suppress a smile. However, he couldn't help laughing in the end. You have a very keen sense of observation. But you got the cause and effect wrong. It's not that he's like a unicorn. It's that the unicorn is like him. He simply gave up the so-called original sin. The evolution of magic caused by extreme purity of itself. His transformation contains the secret of the birth of the first unicorn. To put it in your way, he absorbed the advantages of the unicorn while maintaining his own magical omnipotence. If you're really curious, you can study it. As an old man, I want to remind you, in the long time to come, interesting topics will also be a good companion to pass the time. Chapter 605 Ravenclaw Celebration. Harry's mind was a mess. Dumbledore's words were still ringing in his mind, especially the bit of knowledge that Dumbledore accidentally let slip, that is, the magic circle can also be broken down into spells. If so, this is the result achieved by Professor Riddle through the stripping of original sin. It can also be achieved through a magic circle that is deciphered through the magic lines in the unicorn's body. Although Harry didn't know how powerful this was, but its extraordinariness can be seen from the fact that Professor Riddle, who can be regarded as another Voldemort, transformed himself, strayed from the path of magic, and had to temporarily disappear every Saturday and Sunday. This made Harry curious. However, it was not his discoveries that impressed him most. Instead, Dumbledore seemed to leave him with a difficult knowledge problem after each class that he could not possibly solve at his current stage. Some may even take a normal wizard's entire life to achieve no results. Everything Dumbledore said seemed to be instructing him on how to spend his time. And there's the so-called eternal topic. Is he really immortal? After Ginny, Ron, Draco and the people he was familiar with had passed away over the years, could he really maintain his current mentality? The thought of facing their departure. His heart sank. Harry woke up with a start and found himself in front of a wooden door with a bronze eagle ring. He had barely noticed where his feet were taking him. Which is more precious, what you can't get or what you have already lost? Neither. What is precious is what we have now. Well said, said the eagle knocker, and the door flew open. Then there was deafening cheers. The lounge was so crowded for the first time. He could hardly find Ron and the others in the crowd. Countless pieces of parchment containing various spells and corresponding tips were stuffed into his arms by countless hands. At the same time, in addition to the congratulatory speeches that Harry had almost memorized by heart, there were also various questions. Harry, where have you been? I noticed that the only two people who entered the room and didn't come out were Dumbledore and you. Is he teaching you some unique magic? 2. It's just that I bet on the wrong Durmstrang. Krum is such a shun star in the Quidditch world. Here, this is all the information we have collected. Then, another stack of parchment appeared in Harry's arms. From the outside, someone who didn't know would think she was pregnant. Of course, in addition to these, there are also those that directly predict the topic. Most of them link the content of the team competition in the first event to that of the individual competition. They all guessed that the war magic in the team competition was used on the warriors. With so many wizards using one magic, the blessing will definitely be very powerful. Furthermore, some students whose families worked in the Ministry of Magic found that all departments under the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures were very busy, much busier than usual. Therefore, the difficulties to be overcome in the competition are more likely to be magical creatures than magic traps. So, they even thought of some of the 5X, animals known to kill wizards impossible to domesticate or tame, magical creatures that could be called scary. The fire dragon, which occupies the most space among them, is naturally among them. They all recommended the eye disease spell because the dragon's eyes are its weakest point. This is a spell that looks into the opponent's eyes, giving him conjunctivitis. The eyes are often a vulnerable spot in powerful animals. It may also be effective for other 5X level magical creatures. The basilisk, it has 360-degree vision and cannot close its eyes. Use some spells that require you to look at the opponent before you can use them. However, it cannot be an eye disease spell that directly targets the eyes. Instead, it must be a magic that acts directly on the opponent through the eyes, just like the basilisk's gaze. Malice was the simplest and easiest spell to master that they recommended to Harry. It belongs to Hex in the spell classification. It is only one step away from curse, or black magic, but it is relatively simple to implement. It's just the level of jinx. It's just that the spell must be continued while being cast, and the same goes for the gaze. As long as one of them fails to keep up, evil spirits with bad intentions will be stopped. As for the basilisk, they thought it was unlikely live broadcast. If it is a live broadcast, it would not be appropriate to use a basilisk that cannot control its lethality. The reason why the Nagdu panther was excluded is the same. It has a poisonous breath that is as dangerous as the basilisk's death sight and has a wide range. It can destroy an entire village in a short period of time. It takes at least 100 wizards to subdue it. Among the other 5x magical creatures, the Manticore and Chimera have too high single target damage. It is too dangerous to use as a prop in a competition. As for the cat leopard, it was too fast. Plus it had the ability of telepathy and hypnosis. It was impossible to catch it. As for the longhorned water snake, its reputation does not quite match its fighting ability. Except for a species of horned water snake in America that has a gem on its forehead. Europe were killed off by wizards looking for ingredients for potions. Now most of them are found in North America. As for the five-legged monsters and werewolves, they are classified as 5x because they are used to live in groups. Individually, they are not very good. The former is due to their habit of eating people. The latter is because of the contagiousness of terror. The last Voldemort. Its only weakness is the Patronus charm. Wizards who don't know how to cast a Patronus. Not exciting enough. To sum up, they all thought that the fire dragon was the most likely one. Harry was quite surprised by this. But it also reduces the guilt a lot. Because of the guilt of knowing the content of the game in advance. The warriors from other schools should also be able to guess that it is a fire dragon with the help of other students. In an empty corner of the crowd, Ryan was sipping a cup of hot black tea and slightly smiling. Harry's face clearly showed everything he was thinking just now. Other schools are not so reliable. In the original world line, they relied more on cheating. And Hogwarts. Gryffindor's first thought after sending out the warriors was not to work together. Instead, they held a celebration party. I don't care about it anymore. Hufflepuff is much the same. Requirements of the competition are, warriors may not request or accept any help from their teachers when completing the competition items. The focus here is the teacher. Rather than refusing to accept help from others after doing the nucleic acid test this morning, I went to catch up on my sleep. On Saturday, I have to buy supplies for the whole week and try to avoid going out o'clock. P.S. Thank you to classmate Gigi for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscribe. Chapter 606, Mysterious Hufflepuff Chillness. Different from the original world line in Ravenclaw, Harry received more help in various knowledge aspects instead of surrounding him and forcing him to drink butterbeer or forcing cookies and peanuts into his hands. So after Harry accepted the parchment and listened to the analysis, he soon had some free time. The only sounds left in the lounge were the scratching of quills on parchment and the occasional discussions that were either high-pitched or as soft as the buzz of a mosquito. In such an atmosphere, Harry quickly found a group of people he was familiar with, his team members Roger and others, and his classmates in the same grade, Lisa and others, and his roommate. But Harry couldn't find any trace of Ginny. Well, and Ron? Ron? He went to comfort Lavender. After Harry approached, Neville said to Harry's question, "Comfort? This guy finally got it. Not as far along as you and Ginny. So what did you say?" Harry felt a little strange now. I actually felt a little lost. Ron is such a good for nothing. It wasn't that Comfort. Hall, where's Ginny? She saw that you hadn't come out yet, plus, Lavender was crying, so she stayed there and didn't come up. Where's Parvati? Harry asked again. He knew that Parvati had always disliked Ron. Watch Ron and Lavender very hard. Would she not be there in this situation? She's gone. There's Ginny. She's not afraid that Ron will take advantage of the situation. Neville said gloatingly. He and Hannah haven't even started dating yet. Ron, you bastard, don't try to run away. And the other side. After Neville finished speaking, Harry left the common room. Enter the empty, dark corridor. The moonlight shone through the window onto the shiny armor. Bring a cool, soft glow to the dark corridor. Everywhere are nowhere to be seen. At the same time, those students who like night outings also disappeared, facing the night of freedom that is within reach. Instead, they stayed quietly in the lounge. There is no madness at all about preferring to be caught rather than wandering around at night. Handrail. Below are moving stairs and gaps between them. He took a deep breath and jumped down directly. I have jumped down without using any magic. After calculating everything and finding the gap, he went straight down from the 6th floor and landed on the street floor. But the strange thing was that when Harry touched the ground, no sound was made. What had just happened was the slightly messy hair blown by the wind and the quick breathing for a few seconds. Then he continued walking directly toward the auditorium. In the auditorium, perhaps because Lavender and the other 3 were still there, when all other candles were extinguished, the scattered candles above the Gryffindor table were still flickering, providing a little light for the 3 people below. Twinkling stars. Harry couldn't help but stop in front of the door for a moment. It was the first time he had seen the auditorium so late. In the past, even Fred and George didn't dare to stay here for long. You know, during the summer vacation, they had already practiced the night traveling skills that even Filch, who had a keen sense of smell and a strong body, could not detect. It is said that they also experimented with Percy, because Filch's administrator's office and the staff lounge where the night patrol professors rest are also on the 1st floor. Harry! Ginny's exclamation broke the silence of the hall. She almost ran into Harry's arms. Where have you been? You forgot, I have extra classes. You mean dang, SHH. Harry placed his index finger on Ginny's soft, moist lips, indicating that Lavender was still there. In Ron's arms, he gave Harry a familiar blessing to become a warrior and then disappeared into the dark corridor. In response, Ron walked over with a sullen face and said, "You came at a really bad time. You a hypocrite. You are the one who is so thin-skinned. I wonder if you are still thinking about how it would have been better if I wasn't here just now." Ginny moved her head away from Harry's arms and looked at Ron sarcastically. "You when you were being intimate with Harry." Ron's ears turned red. "Do you dare to stop it? During the summer vacation, Harry often pulled me to have sex. What about you? You can only watch and then go back to your room to kiss the picture of Aunt Muriel under your pillow. Didn't I? Say not to mention Aunt Muriel." Seeing that the two were about to quarrel, Harry quickly stood out between them. He casually took out a piece of parchment that had been stuffed in his arms. "What's in your stomach? Is it all this stuff?" The sharp-eyed Ron was the first to notice that Harry's stomach was bulging. "I was wondering why it became so soft." Ginny suddenly realized. Harry has 8-pack abs. It feels sucky to the touch, but the texture is really not that good. "These are the strategies everyone gave me. Let me see this." Harry unfolded the parchment. Scratches, now known as Hufflepuff Elvis. Suspected to be a descendant of the founder of Castrobusher. This man is highly respected in Castrobusa. It seems that even their principal has some respect for him. Only during Saturday's group potions class, when Professor Castor Palach faced him, did he treat him like a professor would treat a student. Not the most important things. It's that he seems to be able to read minds. Suspected to be a natural legilimency. He always knows in advance what questions others are going to ask. Even when faced with the pranks of the Weasley twins, he was able to detect them in advance and avoid them in time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607. His ability is to predict the future. Faced with this information, Harry and Ginny couldn't help but fell into deep thought. But Ron was different. He looked at the dark corridor behind Harry and confirmed that Lavender was not there. He whispered, that information about Fleur, do you have it in your arms, Harry?" She has always hidden herself very well. Just like Ryan. Faced with Ginny's scorn and Harry's reminder, Ron didn't look at all. Nor did he understand the true meaning of Harry's words. Regarding the fact that Fleur is Ryan's girlfriend, Harry wasn't going to tell anyone without Ryan's permission. Not even Ron. He could only give vague hints. That's the sense of proportion. This is also why Ryan is willing to train Harry. Not only because Harry was his favorite character in childhood, but also because of the deeper layout. If it's just for layout, he could guide them without leaving any trace, just like he treated the 10 knights who were sealed in the Sea of Foreign Lands, the past, the future, parallel worlds, and the subconscious of mankind. Harry, are you telling the truth? Ron noticed this. He doesn't even take a good look at himself. How could a girl like Fleur fall in love with him? I think in the whole school, Ryan is the only one who is worthy of him. Ginny glared at Ron fiercely. In the study room of Smith Castle, Ryan, who was looking here because his name was mentioned, smiled approvingly. This square-faced Ginny, although her looks didn't meet her aesthetic standards, she was a nice person. Facing Ryan's instant praise, the invisible magic magnetic field began to fluctuate slowly, flowing towards Ginny's side. Ginny was destined to have sweet dreams tonight. Her luck and learning efficiency will be much better recently. As for Ron, Fred and George, who had already put aside their anger at Ron's betrayal, were now irritated again. After a telepathic look, they began to build a mischievous maze around Ron. However, this is just the passive nature of Ryan, a powerful individual. He who possesses the kingdom of God is like God's will in the mortal world. I was just looking. I have lavender. Ron said half-truthfully. That is somewhat true. If Ron really is interested in Fleur, he probably isn't that unlucky. However, he was just looking not because of lavender. But just like Ginny said, he knew his own worth. Okay, let's talk about this Elvis first. I don't think he can read minds. Then Harry told what he saw and heard in that room. You have to know the first few seconds before the Floo network is connected. It was as if he knew Mr. Weasley was coming. This is definitely not something that can be known through so-called mind reading. I have observed it. Of the people who came in, only Dumbledore had a feeling that he had known something when he saw Mr. Weasley. The others all showed more or less surprised expressions to see into Dumbledore's heart. And also to know the exact time when Mr. Weasley will eat. But this is not possible. One is, how could Dumbledore be read by a student? Second, you all know Mr. Weasley very well. He is often not on time. To overcome this, he always arrived early. So even if he knew the time Mr. Weasley was coming, Mr. Weasley would arrive before he could even utter that sentence. Mean. Even Ron was focusing on Harry's analysis. Ginny looked at Harry with admiration again. I mean, it's more like he can predict the future. Constant foresight into the future. Our present is the past for him. This would explain why he could know what other people's problems were in advance. Why do we know in advance the time when Mr. Weasley, who is not punctual, will arrive? As Mr. Weasley spoke, he looked as if he had known all this. It seems like I just heard it. Only this can explain everything. But the time he predicted should not exceed 1 minute. Otherwise, when I heard about the dividend, he still looked surprised and couldn't calm down. Harry analyzed. But how is this possible? How can someone predict everything at any time? This isn't magic. Ron was surprised. Have you forgotten where he came from? Castrobuse, the birthplace of the tree shepherds. He must be a tree shepherd area of expertise, so after awakening, it can be so exaggerated. Harry said firmly. He knew very well that this was not an exaggeration. His own ability to lie is very strong. He had tried lying to himself. Through this method, he even mastered the art of brain occlumency without any instruction in a short period of time. This is the magic that he has never been able to get started with. There is also soul reading and telepathy. You know, he doesn't know anything about the spell and learning method of soul reading. The spells that the remnant of Voldemort cast on him were all evil curses, poison curses, and even dark magic that could directly harm or kill others. So this is directly out of thin air. He can do this. Able to predict the future up to a minute or even a few seconds. What's impossible? Is that so? Ron reviewed Harry's words in his mind. Wait, you seem to have mentioned dividends. Can being a warrior make money? Ron's eyes lit up all of a sudden. Even brighter than when I mentioned Furin just now. Harry and Ginny were both very upset about this. That's not all. Harry rolled his eyes. In addition to the fixed 1,000 gold galleons given to the final winner, if the Warriors' live broadcast data is good, they can also sell peripherals and get 10% of the profits. 10%. What have I done before? I would have voted for myself. Even if I'm not as good as Harry. But I worked hard for it. Ron was annoyed and covered his face with his hands, and there is also live broadcast. Live streaming will definitely be profitable, and profitability will make money. If you make money, you must share it. How can there be fewer warriors again? But Ron, the live broadcast was only mentioned at the dinner. Dumbledore said there would be ministry employees. Ginny was interrupted by Harry in the middle of her sentence. Wait, a Ministry of Magic employee? These are all people from Skywalker Alchemy Workshop. It's just that the Ministry of Magic cooperated with it, and Dumbledore didn't mention the name of Skywalker and his company. Ron and Ginny shook their heads. Chapter 608, Dream and Harry's Secret Base. I knew it. Ron repeated his catchphrase. Dumbledore must be vaguely rejecting Skywalker and company. Skywalker's influence is too great in the wizarding world now. But he lived in seclusion. No one knew his name, where he came from, or what he looked like. Dumbledore certainly wouldn't trust him without knowing him. I finally understand. That's why our school has banned the use of props like bamboo helicopters and underwater snorkels on campus since we were in first grade. This isn't because of a Borgin and Burke ripoff. It's all about Dumbledore trying to cure Skywalker and his company's influence. What do you understand? I think you think too much? Dumbledore didn't mention their names this time, but the truth will be revealed during the live broadcast later. This actually has a catalytic effect. Dumbledore's whim. Harry replied unhappily. This was all really just Dumbledore's whim. But Ron was not wrong. This behavior was indeed rejection. Dumbledore is a wizard of noble character who would not deal with a person just because of suspicion. If revealing their names was important to Skywalker and company this time, Dumbledore would not have deliberately left them out to mention the names of an institution or individual that had a great influence but about whom he knew nothing. However, this fact did not allow Ryan to ignore the rejection that flashed through Dumbledore's mind and the actions he took. So, after Harry and the others finished talking, they went straight back to the dormitory. Harry had to go to Hogsmeade tomorrow and had to go to bed early. Ryan gave a blessing that wasn't really a blessing. It was 11:30 in the principal's office. The huge long table with claw-shaped legs in the center of the room had changed its appearance. It was sunken in the middle and filled with soft wool blankets, like a coffin table that had been transformed into a bed. From this perspective, it is normal for him to frown while sleeping. After all, the bed is so simple, but it all comes from dreams. It was a dark room that he had only seen in his dreams, and from Gedler's perspective he seemed dead. Lying in a marble tomb beside the Black Lake, there was a familiar yet unfamiliar face lying in the room that was Gedler were left. Almost all his teeth had fallen out. And he seems to be Gedler. He opened his eyes and struggled to sit up. Although he had no wand and was weak, he was not panicked at all. Facing Voldemort, he just smiled indifferently. Words that he never dreamed of came out of his mouth. You came. I thought you would come, someday. But your coming meant nothing. I didn't have it. Seek. There are many things you do not understand. Kill me. You won't win, you can't win. That wand will never, ever be yours. Then he really died, accompanied by a green light. His body was thrown from the hard bed into the air like a rag, and then fell down in the headmaster's office. Dumbledore woke up. He sat up, his eyes dropped to his knees, tears glistening on his crooked nose. This is the blessing that Ryan gave to Dumbledore. Clearly see the future direction if the original layout is followed, seeing that Grindelwald was willing to die for him rather than reveal the fact that he once had the Elder Wand, just to protect his grave. But for Dumbledore, this love is a burden and a betrayal. It is a burden to oneself. The betrayal of his sister's death. So, after venting his anger, Ryan could fall asleep peacefully. With the help of skillful memory, both hands were placed on the muscle gland flowing with milk and honey. Kate. Smooth. There was silence for a moment in the grand bedroom that the room of requirement had transformed into. Kate also opened her big round eyes angrily. Is there a possibility that this is my front side? Hogsmeade. The dimly lit, cool cave, which can only be reached by passing through winding paths, bypassing sparse fields and vast gardens, passing through fences and climbing high mountains, and following winding, steep, and rocky paths, is now filled with traces of human life. At the end of the cave, in a hollowed-out stone trough, the Goblet fairy fire, which is said to never go out, is burning. There are several 2-foot-high tables made of black wood. There was nothing on the low table, but there was a depression shaped like a bowl or plate. The entrance to the cave is located in front of a huge granite on the mountainside. Breath. Ginny sat on Harry's neck like she was riding a horse, knees, sweating as if he had been drenched in rain. Oh, haha Draco, what if you let Neville carry him up like me? It will not lose a piece of meat. Neville said he could carry the two of us up the mountain on his shoulders. Ron said to Draco proudly after jumping off Neville. However, Draco ignored him and looked directly at Harry. Contact Skywalker Alchemy Workshop to build a hut and make sure it's here. I didn't see anything. This is it. Harry put Ginny down, took out his wand and tapped the rock. Click 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 click. An obvious crack appeared in front of. It's inside. It passed when I inspected it, and the portkey came through everyone. Harry agreed. Chapter 609 Discussion in the Cave. Now I finally understand why you built this. Draco slumped down on the tatami and patted it. Well, I feel like it's massaging my butt. Harry, you want a place to rest after climbing the mountain. But how come this straw mat is so soft and so relaxing to the body? Magic, it adds magic. This is a way of life called sitting, which was brought from an ancient country. Now it is popular in another island country in the Far East. You can call it tatami. Harry paused. But I didn't build it just to rest after climbing. Instead, he wants to build a secret base. Just like Luke Skywalker, Nobita, in Doraemon. Harry taped the low table in front of him with his wand. A porcelain bowl that perfectly matched the depression appeared on the table. As if by magic, clear liquid continued to flow out of it. You all try the canyon water with the scent of osmanthus flowers. I felt good after drinking it. There are about 100 bottles in stock here. When you finish drinking, it will be automatically refilled. If you don't want to drink any more, just tap the table again and it will disappear. Seeing that there was something to drink, Draco, who was already sweating profusely, quickly followed Harry's movements and knocked on the table with his hawthorn wand. After the bowl and canyon water appeared, he quickly picked them up and poured them into his mouth. Ginny and Neville soon followed. But Ron didn't. He just kept staring at Harry, as if he was thinking about something. When Harry felt that he was about to get scared by being stared at, Ron finally spoke. Got a portkey. After we had all the trouble to climb up here, you told us we had a portkey. Ginny, who was slowly tasting the canyon water, could no longer sit still. She first looked at the indifferent Neville, then looked at Ron and said sarcastically, we worked so hard to climb. But I remember that you were carried up here by Neville. And Harry's exact words were it passed during inspection, the portkey came through. Maybe after finishing here, for the sake of the employer's privacy, the portkey will be destroyed directly. No, there is a portkey. But this door key does not lead to Hogwarts. It leads to 10 Rose Lane. Seeing that Ron, Neville, and Draco were a little confused, Harry added, it's where Ginny and I got engaged. That makes sense, Ron muttered, then immediately looked up, but are we just going to sit here? What to play? Are there other toys here to pass the time? Wizard chess? Thunderbolt blasting cards? Gobstones? Wait, Harry quickly interrupted Ron's question, there are no toys. Harry said as he waved his wand again. 5 stacks of parchment appeared on their respective desks. What is this? As a non-Ravenclaw, Draco was unfamiliar with this. Haha, this is the strategy we Ravenclaw gave to Harry. It contains everything that is helpful to Harry, including personal information of the warriors, useful spells and tips, the weaknesses of fire dragons and simple magic to deal with them. Ron said proudly, as if he had come up with these strategies. Us, Draco, didn't you know this a long time ago? It was you who suggested which dragons to choose. Harry asked in confusion. Draco shook his head. I thought the fire dragon would be the finale and would appear in the last event. Wait, Hagrid told us, could it be that the last time he asked us to go to his cabin was to reveal news about the competition? If that's the case, then Hagrid has really come to his senses. He's learned the cleverness of us Slytherins. Is it true? Neville, who also did not go to Hagrid's cabin, asked. That's not the case. Hagrid wasn't trying to cheat. He wasn't like that. He just wanted to tell us that our contract tree had been transplanted to the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Last time it was to show us the way. So that we can be with the Covenant tree more often. Awaken your abilities as soon as possible. There is something you may not know. Harry has already awakened his abilities, the ability to control magic with high precision. At the end of his speech, Ginny showed a proud expression. Neville scratched the back of his head, then you guys, Ron was acting a bit iron-faced. It's like an old father treating a son who has no future. The second project as well. It is said that Harry and his friends will become dragon riders and ride dragons into battle. What's the extra dragon? The largest Ukrainian iron belly? The Chinese fireball? The Swedish short-nosed dragon? Seeing that none of them guessed correctly, Draco took a breath and looked at Harry. Could it be a Plutosaurus? Harry shrugged helplessly. You almost guessed it right, it was too dangerous. As for the extra dragon, its scientific name is Australian white-eye. What? What a dragon. It's pretty good for nothing. Draco seemed a little outrageous. But Neville touched his chin and thought, this is going to be broadcast live or hand, then at the one in Harry's hand. Harry, why is the one in my hand the same as yours? I used the duplication spell and made 4 copies. Harry rubbed Ginny's head lovingly. The other 3 lowered their heads at the same time and looked at the patch in their hands. However, Draco quickly raised his head. Wait, am I right? This guy with a ridiculous name can read minds? No, this is marked with a black line future? Is it the tree shepherd? The handwriting is, well, obviously different. This part was added by you later, Harry. Well, Harry went on to tell his previous analysis. He wanted to hear what Draco had to add, so, Harry, you guessed right. Let me see the next one is. Draco turned to the next page. This is Crumb. Is he so unpopular? Grindelwald has so much power now? A world-class Quidditch star, and not a single student talked to him. Let me take another look. Where is the French girl named Furin? I noticed that most of the students at your table are drooling. How come there is no information about her at there? Chapter 610 Angry Furin. In the eyes of British wizards, these are the two safest places in the world besides Gringotts. There's Hogwarts, but if we go a step further and ask where's the safest place in Hogwarts now, even Dumbledore didn't dare to boast that it was his office. And Grindelwald's place of birth, the core of the big ship on the Black Lake. Only the Forbidden Forest deserves this evaluation. After Hagrid awakened, the entire Forbidden Forest and the magical creatures within it came to life as one. If it weren't for Dumbledore's certainty of their victory, and the location of the battle was set in the North Sea, the island of Azkaban would have appeared in the present world. He even planned to clear a piece of land in the Forbidden Forest to serve as a fortress to protect the students during the battle. It was also because of this that when school started this year, he didn't even say not to enter the Forbidden Forest. Because of Hagrid's presence, it was impossible for any student to enter the Forbidden Forest without his permission. Recently, the 4 giant dragons used in the competition were released into the woods without any chains and in the presence of dragon trainers. The strange thing was that these dragons were very quiet. Not even a roar that could break the sky could be heard in the castle. But now, this should be the safest place. But there is a secret world that even Hagrid doesn't know about. The Centaur territory is located near the rock wall of the back mountain, where there are corpses of spiders filled with the aura of black magic, and in a round hole the size of a gold galleon. But hidden inside is a luxurious room that is 12 feet high and covers an area of 1,000 square feet. In the room, there is a large bed that looks ordinary at first glance. Yet even Ollivander would have cried seeing it. Because its basic structures including headboard, bed frame, foot of bed, bed legs, bedboard and mattresses are all made of keel. The curtains hanging on the bed, as well as the sheets, pillowcases and other bedding are all woven from unicorn tail hair. The fillings of quilts, mattresses, pillows and other bedding are all made of phoenix feathers with the feather shafts removed. Combined together, the entire bed seems like a magical ocean. Even muggles who couldn't sense magic could feel the intense palpitations. Blott's bookstore, a slender, white hand-emitting starlight stretched out from under the quilt. Next came a head with silvery golden hair. On the forehead that is so soft and delicate as if a filter has been added. Ryan's silver rune representing the connection flashed by. Can't you British people be a little more reserved? I just heard someone calling my name again. Honey, how do you bear hearing people mention you all the time? If I had your senses, I would definitely go crazy. Fleur said as she fished out a wand from under her pillow. Pointing at herself, the naked body under the quilt with a slight sweat suddenly became refreshed, and a blue nightgown suddenly appeared on her delicate body. Just as Furin was about to throw off the quilt and get out of bed, Ryan grabbed his slender wrist and said, "It's not like I haven't seen it before. Are you okay?" Furin raised her eyebrows. A man can't say no. Ryan made a gesture to pounce. "Honey, I was wrong." Furin begged for mercy quickly. "I have long advised you not to try to deeply link my senses. You will not be able to bear it mentally and physically." Ryan sat up proudly. He waved his hand, and the soothing aroma that filled the room disappeared with the wind. The purple light also returned to normal white with a vast starry sky directly opposite the bed. It showed Draco Malfoy flipping through a stack of parchment and mentioning Fleur. "Hey, this guy mentioned you. Who is this?" "I recognize the guy next to him, Harry Potter. He's the one who starred in the show Kate and Penelope are following recently. What's it called? Harry Potter and the Resurrection Stone. But it seems to have a bad ending." Furin leaned on Ryan's chest exposed familiarly and looked up and asked. Hiss. Ryan felt the skin that was in contact with Furin's cheek start to get hot. The indescribable place was once again preparing to penetrate deep into the enemy's territory. "Ryan, really? Who do you think I am? Kate just turned the card over last night. I have to accompany Nagini in the afternoon, and Penelope is waiting for me tonight. You little devil, stay away from me." However, These are just Ryan's inner thoughts. On the surface, he was still upright, and he righteously and unsparingly scolded Furren, "Keep it to yourself. Act like an ordinary girl. Gabrielle will be here tonight. I don't want her to find out her sister can't get out of bed. Then I'll let you go." Furren bit Ryan lightly and then put away her charm. Her skin was still fair, but no longer glowing with starlight, as if the filter had been removed. After losing her silver luster, the hair also revealed a moving golden color. And the touch of Furren also restored the warmth that Ryan could bear, instead of the hot, fiery madness that spread from the skin to the bone marrow. Only the delicate facial features and the still exquisitely graceful body were left. Anyone who sees her now will not associate her with Furren. After all, she is still a stunningly beautiful woman. But her beauty is no longer aggressive, but she has become another kind of gentle temperament. No wonder she can become friends with Penelope. Ryan admired Furren's completely different beauty backward. Having been with Ryan for a long time, she already knew how to control this magic called the Circle of Light spell. Soon, she figured everything out. "This is on the hill outside of Hogsmeade. This cave was built by your company." Ryan got the information of other warriors. "I also know the content of the competition and how to pass it. Isn't this a sure win for Hogwarts?" "Furren, can you look over here?" "What are you looking at? What else is there here besides you, my dear?" Ryan frowned. "Ahem. Don't I still have you with me here? Are you still afraid of not winning? With your exaggerated charm, the dragon fires appeared in front of you. Ask them to commit suicide and they will gladly do so. Is there even any need to say this? That's not what I'm angry about. Those little bitches in our school. They just send me. Forget about helping me collect information. It's good enough that you don't hold me back." Furren couldn't help but roll her eyes. Chapter 611 Ryan's Sacrifice and the Flying Curse. Kidney deficiency often occurs after overwork. Facing Furren's sudden anger, Ryan had no choice but to sacrifice himself and bear everything with his fire body. He just felt that his life was so miserable. But fortunately, Luna and Hermione are not yet adults. Gentleman Ryan doesn't have to do any extra work. As long as they defeat the god of death and work hard to grow before they reach adulthood, they can become true divine wizards. The body transformation skill reaches LV7, and the physiological communication reaches LV6. Well, even with Luna and Hermione added in, there's nothing to be afraid of. Once I accept my own weakness, I will be invincible. Justice Facedge. With the help of Ryan, the embodiment of justice, the most outstanding and noble knight, the fairness of the competition has been defended. Harry also wouldn't face Krum's epic enhancement. The competition will proceed smoothly under the principles of fairness, justice and openness. Fleur will play on her own at that time. Harry just knows the content of the game in advance, and it is no big deal for Waltz to predict the future. As a warrior of Durmstrang, Krum will definitely face everything with strength. If it's the Peruvian Viper-Tooth Dragon, Harry, the first thing you need to do is cast the Bubblehead charm on yourself. As for the Hungarian Treehawk, it is covered with thorns at close range, and is also known to be able to spray dragon fire at the longest distance to attack from a distance. You can consider the eye disease spell the other two dragons. They are just for show. You can do with them as you wish. You shouldn't worry too much about the other warriors, Harry, except for that Elvis. In the cave, Harry and his group have already sorted out a plan to deal with the dragon and the situation of each warrior. The discussion is coming to an end. Just as everyone was tapping the table, hiding the dishes, and preparing to stand up, Ron suddenly proposed a possibility. "Wait, I just thought of something. Are probably not strong enough to fight the dragon directly." Everyone agreed. But Harry complained in his heart, "Fleur is Ryan's girlfriend. This is not necessarily true." Ron continued, "They all rely on the war magic performed by students from their own schools." But Krum offended Grindelwald. Will the other students really put in the effort to perform magic? Then Krum, with Dumbledore and the others, as well as the entire British audience watching the live broadcast, "The students of Durmstrang shouldn't go too far," said Harry. He was actually a little unsure of what he said. If Grindelwald were here, it would probably be like this. But now Grindelwald is pregnant. It is out of his personal control. Now everything is handled by his loyal followers. For the sake of the leader in their hearts, they might really dare to risk the world's condemnation and deliberately let the opponent win when casting war magic. Life should be safe for this. Harry said amen in his heart for the first time in a long time. But Ron and the others didn't know the twists and turns here. They didn't even know Grindelwald was pregnant. So after Harry finished speaking, they all put down the big stone in their hearts. They followed Harry and started to walk back. No, Harry is a warrior now. The flying spell, also known as the summoning spell, is a very useful spell. Flyexio can make distant targets fly towards you. When attempting to summon an object, the caster must have a focused, clear image of the object in his or her mind. At the same time, shout out the name of the item, followed by fly over. Such as XX flies here. This will cause all uncursed objects within the range of your subconscious attention when casting the spell to fly towards you. It can also be used like flying around. The difference from all fly here is that the summoned objects do not fly towards you with you as the center. Instead, it is summoned by you to fly around. Elements and the Shinra Tensei? But doesn't the book say that the summoning spell targets inanimate objects? The only creatures it can summon are insects like flobberworms, which are almost like plants. Anthony raised his hand and responded to what Professor Flitwick had just said. He actually bought standard spells, level 4, in advance. Ryan, who is not far away, shrugged. If Hermione had not been taught by him not to be superstitious about books, the one who raised her hand just now would probably be her. That's a good question. You should be more precise. The flobberworm is one of the few creatures that can be summoned by a summoning spell while still alive. With all due respect, Miranda Goshawks, author of the Standard Book of Spells, summoning spells are limited in their abilities. The information she researched when the writing book was not very comprehensive. This led her to believe that the summoning spell only worked on inanimate objects. Magical creatures like the flobberworm and the horcrux are just that, they're too plant-like. However, more and more findings prove one thing. The summoning spell can work on living things. Or maybe your summoning spell is very advanced. Let me put it this way. Summoning spells can actually be divided into two categories, whether the object being summoned is inanimate or animate. For the former, the range of a successful summoning spell is 3 steps. First, positioning. You need to know the approximate location of the thing you want to summon. This can greatly reduce the probability of spell failure. If you are proficient in the summoning spell, you can also skip this step. Second, imagine the general appearance of the object. If it belongs to you and you have actually touched it, then casting the spell is relatively simple. If you just want an item, for example, glasses, not just a specific person's glasses. What you need at this time is to link the name of the item with the suffix of the summoning spell without any gap. Simply forget that you are going to use a summoning spell. Use it as XX summoning spell. The name is the shortest spell. The third is to add the suffix flying. Be resolute and resolve when chanting the spell. Use your mind to connect the object to yourself. Believe that you can summon it. This is a test of willpower. Living things can also follow these 3 steps. But this requires a lot of magic power from the wizard. Thanks to classmate Shu Mengzhong Halo for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 612 Interrupted Spells Class. Hermione's face was full of confusion. What do you mean by very high? Dumbledore, Hagrid, Grindelwald, and Voldemort are at this level. Ryan paused, pointed his mouth towards Harry, and said, Harry and Riddle can't do it because their realm is not high enough. Although in terms of magic power alone, Riddle's magic power has long faded, and he has abandoned his original sin and embarked on another path. He is now a demigod who is not a demigod wizard. As for Harry, his magic power has now reached perfection, even demigod wizards cannot match it. What about Hagrid? Hermione had read the travel notes written by William Smith, an ancestor of the Ryan family. But this does not mean that Rubeus Hagrid, who has awakened Hagrid's bloodline, can be compared with Dumbledore and others. He relies on the Hagrid's dominance over living things. He's overtaking others. Did I summon the Niffler? Ryan smiled. Normal wizards want to succeed. The point is not the steps, but it lies in the life itself. Casting it is more like making a phone call, communicating with that life form with your thoughts and obtaining its consent. It's best if it thinks it belongs to you. That's how you can succeed. Just then, there was a knock on the door of the dungeon, interrupting Hermione and Ryan's conversation. It's Ginny. Books, excuse me, Professor, I need to take Harry upstairs. It's about the tournament, Ginny said quickly. Hurry up and get up. Ron Harry pushed who was still sitting motionless on the stool. Harry looked hesitantly at Professor Flitwick. Professor, can I? The course is still go. I almost forgot to tell you. You can also be exempted from all homework in Charms class. It's just, Weasley. Professor Flitwick glared at Ron, who was laughing so hard that his eyes were invisible, and then looked at Harry seriously. Harry, I know that even if I exempt you from homework, you will maintain the good habit of reviewing after class. But I don't want your good habit to be taken advantage of by some classmates who don't like doing homework. Ron shrank his neck. He knew that the classmate Professor Flitwick was talking about was him. So Harry slung his bag over his shoulder, stood up, and after saying goodbye to Professor Flitwick, he and Ginny headed for the door. Harry, did you see Ron's embarrassing look? It was so funny. Ginny couldn't wait to say as soon as Harry walked out of the classroom and closed the door, don't you think so? He deserved it. It's his fault for not doing his homework. Yeah, he deserves it, but he's your brother after all, said Harry helplessly. They both walked towards the steps leading to the entrance hall. What was I called for, Ginny? Ginny stuck out her tongue, ignoring Harry's words about respecting Ron. In response to Harry's question later, she replied, it seems like I asked you to take pictures. You know, this is going to be broadcast live nationwide, right? It's normal to take photos. Just to warm up. Whose people were taking the photo, Skywalker Alchemy Workshop or the Daily Prophet? Breathed a sigh of relief. With Sirius around, he wouldn't be embarrassed to. After all, he didn't know any of the four warriors except Crumb. Fleur is Ryan's girlfriend. As a French woman, will she be particularly difficult to get along with? What if I accidentally offend her? Good luck, Ginny said, and she threw herself into Harry's arms and gave him a light kiss. By this time they had arrived outside the room. Harry knocked on the door and walked in. This is a smaller classroom, and most of the desks have been pushed to the back of the room, leaving a large open space in the middle. But there were 3 desks facing each other, placed in front of the blackboard, covered with a long piece of velvet. Elvis also stood far away from the others. He turned around in advance and greeted Harry. He stretched out his index finger and pointed at his left cheek, which looked very strange. The same went for Fleur. She also stayed away from the others, playing with her golden hair that shone with silver light out of boredom. Not far away, a pot-bellied man was holding a large black camera that was emitting a little smoke, and was looking at Fleur out of the corner of his eye. Mr. Weasley turned suddenly, and quickly stood up and jumped forward. But he wasn't doing it for Harry. Instead, Ginny. I see you. Come in too. Sirius and I are here. Sirius walked quickly to Harry's side and handed him a brown silk scarf embroidered with an eagle. Wipe it quickly. Ginny is really something, don't pay attention. We're going to take pictures soon. Harry quickly took it and wiped it on his face. Only then did he understand the meaning of Elvis's actions just now. On the other side, Mr. Weasley also walked in with Ginny, whose face was flushed. This is my daughter. Harry's fiancée. At this point, he looked towards Fleur, as if he was making some important announcement. Fleur wrinkled her pretty nose. Come on. I'm not interested in a ridiculous little boy like Harry Potter. I have a boyfriend. Cough. Mr. Weasley coughed rapidly. Now that the warriors have arrived, then let me get straight to the point. Nothing much happened today. It was a ceremony to test the wands, and the other referees would arrive soon. We must check that your wands are fully functional and in good condition, because they are your most important equipment in the future competitions. Mr. Weasley said, the expert is upstairs with Dumbledore. Then some pictures. This is Sirius Black, he said, pointing at Sirius. He is writing a short article about the tournament for the Daily Prophet. You? Writing an article? Harry looked at Sirius curiously, blinking. Sirius didn't answer directly. He looked at Mr. Weasley first. Arthur paused for a moment. It just so happens that the other referees haven't arrived yet. I want to talk to our youngest warrior first. You know, you need it for writing. Sirius winked at Mr. Weasley secretly. Chapter 613 Magic Wand Detection. In a small compartment for brooms, Sirius hurriedly sat on an upside-down bucket, swaying as if he would fall down at any moment. Then he pressed Harry against a cardboard box and closed the door, plunging them into darkness. Time is urgent, so I'll speak quickly. The first event is a one-on-one battle with a dragon. Let me talk about the dragon first. Types of dragons, right? I already knew them. Peruvian venomous fang dragon, Hungarian horntail, Hebridean black dragon, Australian white eye. The dragon's weakness, right? I know that too. I knew so much and some of the content. What is a tree shepherd? He didn't know either. A school of magic from Castellabush. Hagrid taught me, Ron, Ginny, Neville and Draco. The characteristic is that one can awaken a magical ability that he is good at and can perform it as if by instinct without the need for a wand. That Elvis ability is to predict the future within 1 minute. Maybe even shorter. Harry said lightly. This? It was just that by made him so nervous for a moment. As for Sirius, he was shocked at first, then curious. How did you know? You know, I got all this information from Peter Skeeter, who's pretty much everywhere. Light Albus Dumbledore stood there, looking down at the two of them, and smiled and said, Sirius, I'm afraid this conversation between you and Harry has come to an end. For the smooth progress of the wand testing ceremony, Harry needs to come out immediately. I've said what I want to say. Sirius couldn't help but let out a tut sound as he spoke. It was obvious that he was still surprised by what Harry had just done. I'll be going first then, said Harry, and he walked around Dumbledore and into the room. The other champions were already sitting in chairs by the door, and he hurried over to sit next to Krum, looking at the velvet-covered table in front of him, where 4 of the 5 just took a feather pen and began to record it seriously and said to several warriors, he will check your wands to make sure they are in good condition before the game. Harry looked around and was surprised to see an old wizard with large light eyes standing quietly by the window. Harry had met Mr. Ollivander before. It was from this wandmaker that Harry had bought his wand 2 years earlier in Diagon Alley. This time in the sunlight, Harry discovered that Ollivander's eyes were closer to gray, not silver like Ryan's. The first thing to be tested was Fleur's wand. Ollivander was visibly surprised by her wand. Because its core is actually Vela's hair. If its owner is too homely and has no ambition, the magic cast by it will become heavy and dull. But Ryan is obviously like a wizard without ambition. He hides himself all day and lives a simple life. How did Fleur, who had a maple wand, get involved with Ryan? Furthermore, Guy de Maupassant, one of the 3 greatest stick makers in Europe, was in France. Second place. The second wand to be examined was Krum's. Harry heard Grigorovich's name from Ollivander. He is the last of the 3 great European staff makers, and he belongs to Germany. And Harry also knew that this wandmaker actually owned the Elder Wand, but later it was stolen by Grindelwald and finally fell into Dumbledore's hands. This also made Harry look closely at Krum's wand several times. I wonder if the style that Ollivander did not quite accept came from the Elder Wand. In Ollivander's words, it is much thicker than one usually sees, very hard. This reminded Harry of Dumbledore's wand. It was indeed much thicker than an ordinary wand. However, after hearing Krum's wand would, Harry couldn't help but mourn for Krum. Hornbeam wands choose those wizards who have a natural gift for a single, pure passion, and who ultimately achieve success in that passion. In other words, it is a one-sidedness. Ollivander's wand is made of hornbeam. He simply loves wands, so his magic level is very average, as mentioned by Dumbledore during his lectures. And for Krum, the one thing for which he had a single, pure passion was obviously Quidditch. In other words, Krum, whose wand wood is hornbeam, is just average at everything except Quidditch. Just Quidditch. Even his classmates might hold him back. Just as Harry was lamenting for Krum, the wand of the 3rd person, Elvis, was also checked. His was hazel, with cat panther whiskers, 11 1/3 inches. Hazelwood is said to choose owners who understand and can control their emotions, and can reflect the emotional state of its owner. A magic wand made from the whiskers of a leopard that can cause hypnosis and telepathy. No wonder the other students mistook him for a legilimency. Judging from the wand alone, it's very likely. Very good, said Mr. Ollivander, handing his wand back to Elvis. And last, Mr. Potter. Harry stood up quickly. Then he walked towards Mr. Ollivander and handed over his wand. Great, this is the only peace of mind here. I don't even need to watch. Hollywood, phoenix feather, pliable, 11 inches long. Yes, yes, yes. I remember it clearly. At this point, Ollivander's light-colored eyes suddenly flashed with excitement. No. It has changed. No, it's still that one. But it changed again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614, Hollywand? In the referee's seat, Dumbledore adjusted his half-moon glasses, his eyes also lighting up with excitement. Garrick, it has changed. Has Harry's wand been tampered with? Sirius stood up and looked at the other warriors fiercely. That's unlikely. Mr. Weasley released his hand from Ginny, placed it on Sirius' shoulder, and pushed him back into his seat in worry. Fiorin closed his eyes in disdain. And Elvis doesn't seem to mind showing his differences at all. He always maintains a demeanor that is confident and as majestic and unshakable as a mountain. Holly wands are considered defensive in nature, and are often chosen by witches and wizards who do not care about their lives, engage in dangerous behavior, and pursue spiritual pursuits. Dueling in all areas of curses. Dark arts and defense against the dark arts. Two wandwoods that are undoubtedly mutually exclusive. Ollivander did not answer Dumbledore's question directly. Instead, he stared at the wand in his hand with fascination and talked about the knowledge of wandwood. Can you believe it? This should be a wand made of holly, but it has the characteristics of a yew wand which is completely opposite to it. It's like a combination of that brother wand I made in this one. It's amazing that they are mutually exclusive and yet they are miraculously combined together. The so-called 7 impossible combinations are no longer a big deal in front of this wonderful combination. Speaking of this, Ollivander waved his wand. However, nothing happened. It was as if the wand in his hand was just an ordinary wooden stick. It's rejecting me. It can tell the difference between my magic and its master's magic. Harry, you come. Ollivander chose to hand the wand back to Harry. Harry took the wand. Orchid blooms. A bouquet of flowers bloomed on the head of the wand. Very good. Very good. Ollivander couldn't help but applaud. Sirius clapped along. The man with the camera followed Sirius' lead in clapping. Dumbledore gave Harry a long look. Ginny and Krum breathed a sigh of relief. As for Harry, he gathered the flowers together and smiled awkwardly. Merged with his evil side and absorbed the remnants of Voldemort, his wand also transformed along with him. Wait until the room becomes quiet again. The man with the black camera jumped up and cleared his throat. After making eye contact with Sirius, he said, "Is everything finished? Then the next step is taking pictures." After hearing this, everyone stood up. Madame Maxime, please just sit down. Harry, do you mind letting Miss Delacour sit in the middle? It will make the photo look better. Under the photographer's command, the photos were taken quickly. The others also turned their eyes to Dumbledore, as if waiting for some instructions. But Harry figured that was the end of it for today. Because Elvis, who could predict the future, was looking towards the exit without any concealment. Thank you all, said Dumbledore, rising from the judge's table. You may return to your lessons now. Perhaps it would be easier to go down to dinner, as they will soon be dismissed anyway. After Dumbledore finished speaking, Elvis made a strange gesture and left with Madame Volcanova. Fleur and Madame Maxime followed. Dumbledore was with Ollivander. Karkaroff left Krum behind again and left alone. Sirius seemed to want to say something to Harry, but was also pulled away by Mr. Weasley, who had just finished greeting Ginny. When the man taking the picture saw Sirius leave, he quickly picked up his camera and left the room. Just as Ginny took Harry's arm and wanted to go out, Harry spoke. Ginny, wait outside for a moment. Krum and I have something to talk about. Ginny agreed, let go of Harry, walked out and closed the door. Krum stopped walking and turned to look at Harry. You want to talk to me about Ron? I don't think it's a good time for him and I to meet officially yet. First project is the dragon. What? Krum was very surprised and frowned. But in the next moment, I believed Harry's words without any doubt. But why? I may be your friend, but this is a competition. Not you and me. It's Hogwarts and Durmstrang. That's the problem. Hogwarts and Durmstrang. This game isn't just about you and me schools, but you are different from me. The students in your school are very hostile to you. If that's enough, I can do it alone. Krum replied loudly, but he soon realized his own rudeness. I'm sorry, Harry, I was too loud, but I really think I can do it on my own. If the game is about dragons, it must not involve a head-on battle with a dragon. I guess we need to complete the mission with a dragon around. Transfiguration skills aren't bad. I can just turn a rock or something into a hound to distract it so I can complete the task normally. No, that's not what the game is about. Just imagine how powerful the magic bestowed on a wizard would be if it required a school of wizards to successfully cast it. If that's the kind of magic, what you're thinking is too simple. I know what the contest involves, a one-on-one fight with a dragon. There are 4 dragons. 1 for each of us. So, I'm going to fight one-on-one with 7 or 8 dragons that can only be subdued by wizards with great powers and who know their weaknesses. with a possibility that the students of Durmstrang might hinder us. Krum took a deep breath. Are you trying to persuade me to give up, Harry? Not to risk my life for a competition. For you to defeat a dragon head-on. Harry, ugh. I'm glad you could help me figure it out. But we can only use ones in the game. Facing Krum's regret, Harry smiled. I'll give you a hint. Today we learned a spell that can only be learned in 4th grade. Its spell is brief, but gives you what you need. Chapter 615, Suspended Classes. What Dumbledore was thinking when he looked deeply at Harry because of the change in Harry's wand. Logically speaking, he should be the only one who knows. Communication level 4 level 5, 3%, while communicating with Hermione's mind, his communication skills, which had been improving at a snail's pace, broke through to level 5. Ryan's communication skills, to be more precise, are a branch of his investigative skills that can inquire into everything, even the invisible fate. The rune representing connection invented by Ryan is its embodiment. From lifeless stones to dead gods, Ryan can treat them as individuals, linking and exchanging information. It is precisely because of this breakthrough in skill. So when Dumbledore was thinking, Ryan even directly regarded his fleeting thoughts as a separate individual and secretly communicated with him unilaterally of death. Harry's wand can reject Ollivander. Why? Will it have any effect on the wizard's mind? Can I detect it? I seem to have been affected. Ariana, I don't want to revive her, do I? I face death calmly and never think about prolonging my life because it was obvious that Dumbledore's keen wizard intuition could be seen through the changes in Harry's wand indifference to resurrection. However, Ryan was disappointed that even Dumbledore realized this. He still had no intention of changing, and he didn't even have any resentment towards the god of death. However, it seems that there is some impact. Time Thursday. There are still 3 days until the team competition. Harry and Ron were sitting here until class starts, and that Elvis hasn't come out yet, said Ron, biting a stalk of barnyard grass and half-flooded his eyes in boredom the first floor a few days ago. He just wanted to meet Krum. But even with the help of the Marauder's map, he still failed to successfully stop Krum. The most important thing is that according to other students who have seen Krum just goes to the library frequently. There was no practice of summoning spells or broom riding. This made Ron a little worried. So, after missing Krum again just now, I have suggested looking at Castrobus's residence and means of transportation, the redwood tree not far away. I wanted to take a look at whether Waltz had done any training for the first project. The result was that, like Krum, Elvis did not come out. This made Ron even more frustrated. I think they are all practicing in their own rooms to avoid leaking information. Harry pointed at some Hogwarts students who intended to pass by the ship and the redwood several times. There were quite a few familiar faces among them, the ones who had given Harry strategies before. Okay, Ron sighed. Just when Harry didn't know what to say, a familiar voice came from far away, like waves. Harry. Harry. Harry, it was Colin. Creevey, breathing heavily. Luckily, you haven't had your Care of Magical Creatures lesson yet. He waved the parchment in his hand. Is this another letter from Dumbledore? Ron asked. Colin agreed, which surprised Ron. There would be more. Sir Cadogan will help me keep an eye on the headmaster's office. Ron rubbed his ears, wondering if he had heard it wrong. What? How will a portrait follow the principal? This portrait is either a madman or an idiot. He is a bit mad, riding a pony all day and waving a sword, Colin said as he handed the letter to Harry. Then he walked away, looking back every few steps. I still can't believe that there is a portrait that can reveal the headmaster's whereabouts to students. Ron said this and moved closer to Harry. As for Harry, he spread the letter out on his knees. Dear Harry, because the group competition starts on Sunday, this Saturday's class is temporarily cancelled. Also, congratulations on becoming a Hogwarts champion. I will address your concerns about Krum. Hogwarts, and there are many portraits conveying messages to him. Besides, didn't we already know this? Enough. Dumbledore will probably negotiate with Grindelwald personally. Krum is probably okay. But this is a competition. What if Krum wins the championship because of this? Said Ron. After Krum was fine, he began to worry about Harry's honor as the champion of the championship. Okay. Ron. Championships and all that don't matter this time. The competition is live. What is more important than winning is the performance compared to the 1,000 gold galleons bonus. The dividends from the peripheral products are more important. Besides, I don't think Krum is a threat to me. Harry said confidently at the same time. A melodious and deep bell sound came from the castle. I was just too anxious. I just wanted to feel a little involved. I hope to get some useful suggestions. I'm not a warrior, but both of my friends are warriors, especially you, Harry, the most important friend to me. Ron stood up, looking a little embarrassed. Okay, it's time for class, Harry said, and suddenly pointed to a place not far away. Look, Neville is following the Hufflepuff students again. Guess which one Neville likes later. What are you doing? Ron said this, but he couldn't help but smile. Been thinking about for a long time, Harry said, and the two of them walked towards Hagrid's hut together. What exactly is the gift? The latest firebolt? Ravenclaw's diadem? The title deed to number 10 Rose Road? You're thinking too beautifully. That's not what I want you to guess. But if you really want the last one, I can give it to you. As long as you're not afraid of Ginny getting mad. Chapter 616, The Righteous Way of Magic in This World to Fall in Love. Ryan considered himself a good student. Even though he could skip classes with a clear conscience, he still insisted on attending classes. Well, it's not to accompany Hermione. However, because of this, I happened to hear the conversation between Harry and Ron. Although Ryan's thoughts have already covered the entire campus. But as a mortal, he only looks at what he should look at based on his intuition. What you get from flipping through the records of the castle's past in your spare time is never as good as hearing it with your own ears. In the 1st century AD, Plutarch posed a question: if the wood on Theseus' ship was gradually replaced until all the wood was no longer the original wood, would the ship still be the same ship? This is the famous philosophical problem, the ship of Theseus. The same goes for humans. Human cells complete their overall metabolism once every 7 years on average. But if we divide the human body into various organs, metabolism is going on all the time. Sometime and hear this conversation, his thoughts might not be the same as they are now. Ryan just felt very strange now. The puzzle that Harry set for Ron, who is Neville's favorite person. He thought of the one he had set. But Kate and Penelope seemed to have forgotten the puzzle he set. Who is the new heir to the Hogshead Inn? He said he would give a big gift to the person who guessed correctly. You have given any answer. Not even a guess. All Penelope knew was that this person was in the same grade as Ryan. But Kate knew that the candidate was a witch. Just compile a list of the little witches of Ryan's class who often went to Hogsmeade this school year and who passed through or entered the Hogshead Inn. It's very close to the answer. But neither of them took any action. What's even more interesting is that the answer to Harry's and Ryan's puzzle is actually the same. Yes, Hannah Abbott is the new heir that Albus Ford, the owner of the Hogshead Inn, has been eyeing. Interestingly, in the original world line, Hannah's best friend, Susan, was targeted by the weird old man Albus Ford after she lost her Aunt Amelia Bones, the former director of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement and now the Minister of Magic. But now I have lost this opportunity because my life is so happy it can be regarded as giving her to his best friend. What's more interesting is not this. One of the reasons why Hannah was targeted was her unshaken determination to become a bar owner. In the original world line, because of the departure of the best friend, the war is coming. This made her realize one thing: the bar owner could not save the wizarding world. This gave her the idea of becoming a therapist. Leaky cauldron. She lived upstairs in the bar with Neville. In the eyes of Neville's students, their bar life was cool. But the idea of becoming a therapist made Hannah give up her career as a bar owner, retraining to become a healer, while also applying for the position of head nurse at Hogwarts. But now the world line. Although she had not lost Susan, she still did not give up her own ideal, to become a bar owner. In addition, in this world line, Neville knew his feelings for Hannah very early on, and Hannah also noticed this. As a matter of course, Hannah came into Aberforth's sight. But in Ryan's view, this is not enough. Because although Hannah inherited the excellent blood of the Bones family, her personality is similar to Ron, who was originally from Gryffindor. She's like a female Ron. He is idle all day and just slacks off in class. Relying on his own talent, he managed to achieve fairly good results. Later, he even became a class monitor thanks to his good popularity and good grades. Well, it's the same with Ron. That's why he became the class leader. And all because someone more deserving of the position was not considered. Hannah's Hufflepuff was out of the question because of Cedric's death. The female version of Ron, who wanted to be a bar manager, would not be favored by Aberforth. This dangerous artifact in the Hogshead Inn requires a powerful wizard as its master. Rather than a wizard who has great talent but studies casually, maintains above-average grades, and muddies through. So, Ryan, without exception, thought about this. Hogwarts students were because she was precocious, which was different from the original world line in the current world. She has already understood Neville's intentions. I have known since first grade what it means for a boy to like a girl is falling in love. The right way to improve magic? Even if it's a secret crush? Did Dumbledore mean this when he said love is the most powerful magic? Come to think of it, Snape was indeed very strong as he fell in love with Lily before she even went to Hogwarts. They can fight the four-man robbery team consisting of Harry's father on equal terms. James Potter also worked hard because he fell in love with Lily in the first grade. The same should be said of Sirius towards James, so he can even remain healthy when surrounded by a group of Dementors. Dumbledore and Grindelwald also parted ways that summer and started their own brilliant lives. Outrageous people came home. Although Ryan knew long ago that a wizard's magic relied more on the strength of the mind and will precocity, and falling in love means spiritual maturity, but he didn't expect it would have such a big effect. No wonder when Dumbledore saw that Lavender in the original world line was cheated on by Ron, he just sighed lightly. It's good to be young. You can still feel the pain of love. Thinking about it now, this is an admiration for truly motivated students. No wonder Snape and the four Marauders were almost bullying each other, but Dumbledore remained unmoved. It turned out that in his opinion, these were two motivated students sharpening each other's spirit. For love, whether gaining or losing, it is a progress. Why stop it? So I was practicing magic. Ryan later realized and connected himself to Penelope. I have started multi-threaded operations with Kate, Fleur, Hermione, Luna and Nagini. No wonder his magic improved so quickly. I'm afraid that even without the system, Ryan can still gain a place in this world. Because Ryan is so ambitious. Chapter 617 Political Mission. Let's not talk about Ryan for now. Because I discovered my own progress. To go one step further. Except for Ryan, who was already with Luna and Hermione. In the Charms classroom, Ryan appeared from the air, licking his face, and squeezed in between Kate and Penelope. Nagini wrapped around another freshly baked lion and took human form. At this moment, the real Ryan, who was lying dead in the copper coffin in the Smith's alchemy hut, controlled those Ryans who were equivalent to his hands and feet, and began the road to progress. On Harry's side, the Care of Magical Creatures class officially began. At this moment, Harry was wondering about the group of puppies that Hagrid brought today. Although their bodies were all covered by a long piece of cloth. But with his superhuman senses, the looming figure, the barely detectable smell, and the barking of puppies as soft as mosquitoes and flies all indicated one thing: there was a group of puppies below. But, looking at Ron, who was looking Neville up and down with an expression like Fang in heat, this made him think of a possibility. Could these puppies be the children of Yale and the three-headed dog? The more Harry thought about it, the more it seemed possible. This would explain why the puppies only had one head. However, it doesn't matter even if it's a puppy, as long as it's not a cat. Although he was chased and bitten by Aunt Maggie's old bulldog Lippy, but the other dogs weren't too mean to him, especially Yaya, who was very affectionate towards him, and the cats. The group of cats raised by Mrs. Fig left a deep shadow on him. Ryan's Jerry always gives him the feeling of a wild beast. For this reason, he even connected the lion and cat of Gryffindor when they were sorted, and finally chose to go to Ravenclaw. Furthermore, Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, is particularly annoying. At this time, Hagrid had just finished his opening remarks for today in front of all the students' guys. And Ryan was following Hermione and saying, "Oh, Hermione, are you sure you're not wearing any makeup? I want to make a phone call to God and report that an angel is missing." Hermione didn't look shy as usual. Instead, her eyes wandered, moving toward the puppies, and said perfunctorily, "Yes. What? You want to keep one?" Ryan's eyes flickered. This little thing really hates muggles. It's a natural racist dog. Hermione finally came to her senses. No way. Listen, our Professor Hagrid is about to introduce it now. Ryan shrugged. This is a Croup, a dog bred by wizards, very similar to a Jack Russell Terrier, but with a forked tail. You mean by being able to eat everything? Harry asked, raising his hand cooperatively. Because I discovered that Hagrid deliberately left this sentence to the end. He also emphasized his tone. That's what it means. Look, Hagrid pointed to his legs. A Croup that had broken away from the team was wagging its tail left and right, lowering its head and starting to eat dirt. The students around couldn't help but exclaim again. But this time it was really a surprise. Mr. Longbottom, I hope the little puppy is okay." Hannah, who was standing by, intended to be weak and leaned on Neville. He used his eyes to stop Susan, who wanted to get closer. Neville, who could tell eyes because of his swordsman's heart, seemed not to notice. He immediately hugged Hannah and comforted her. "It's okay. The professor just said so." Big Eyes also lied. And that hug seemed so natural. Very much like Harry hugging Ginny. If you film the scene, cover Neville's head and hide the muscle outline. Anyone familiar with Harry would think this was Harry. And Hannah, for Neville's sake, killed her best friend Susan Bones. 13-year-old child after all. A child who can't lie. Well, not really. Just as Ryan was lamenting his own purity, Neville, who was comforting Hannah, reluctantly raised his hand and let go of Hannah. Because he noticed that Ron had been looking at him. "Professor, I hope this group is okay." "Of course not, Neville. What do you think?" "Hey, why are you blushing?" "Let me see." "Nothing, I just asked a question in class for the first time." "Well," Hagrid stopped walking toward Neville. "Like I said, it'll eat anything. The lapdog has a stomach that can digest anything. It can digest anything from soft sand to hard steel." Neville's left hand was currently being held by Hannah. "Creatures," Hagrid froze in mid-sentence. At the same time, Susan also froze. They both blinked, not knowing what to say. "Because, today I'm introducing the Swallowtail. It's all Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures politics." In order to repay the dragon's kindness, Hagrid served as a promotional ambassador. As Ms. Bones' niece, Susan took on the role of supporting actress. The reason why the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures promotes it is entirely because the Croupies were bred by them. The intention is to attract wizards to buy it and spend money on testing in order to obtain a license. This way they can earn extra funds. Employees in their departments will also receive bigger bonuses. But adopting Croup is a hassle. Their ferocious nature towards muggles certainly attracts the love of pure-blood wizards, so that Croup breeders are required by law to remove one of their tails using a painless cutting spell when the dog is 6 to 8 weeks old to avoid attracting the attention of muggles. Also, there's that test. If the test fails, the money paid for the dog cannot be refunded. A license can only be obtained if it is ensured that the breed can be kept under control in muggle-inhabited areas. This is why the plan to sell the French mackerel was aborted and why this political mission was born. Chapter 618 Harry Crabs and the Magical Zoo. Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures? I remembered. It's a Slytherin dog. They only get close to wizards and are very cruel to muggles. Plus the steel teeth that can bite iron as if it were bone, if you don't live in a pure wizard community like Hogsmeade. Or have a manor. Then don't keep it. This is a scam used by the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures to make money. Any wizard who wants to keep it needs to test it, and there is a fee for both testing and purchasing, and there is no refund if it fails. And every Croup has to have its tail removed, which is too cruel. Ernie said. However, he was looking at Neville when he said this. It's clearly not about bringing justice to these puppies or exposing a scheme to defraud money. It's purely a personal grudge publicized as a positive case for the Ministry of Magic. Combined with Hagrid's weirdness just now, Ernie believed this was a political act. And Neville is the supporting actor. So he stood up to sabotage it. Hermione also noticed this. Ryan, Ernie likes Hannah too. Obviously, but things won't develop the way he thinks. Look at Hagrid of our school. Lion raised his eyebrows. If it was Hagrid who hadn't met Draco yet, he probably wouldn't say that. Hagrid would even secretly approve of it. Now the policy has changed. The Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures works in partnership with a Muggle Liaison Office. In the future, the Croup breed will be registered in the Muggle world. Well, this is also said to be scientific. It can be said that it is because the twins merged. It was supposed to develop into 2 puppies, but for some reason, it did not split normally in the dog's body, resulting in the deformity of the puppy. So they don't need to have their tails removed anymore. And that test has also changed. It's no longer about testing your dog's obedience, it only costs 1 gold galleon. By now, almost saw through Hagrid's purpose, to advertise for the Croup. However, no one paid much attention to this. Except Ernie. He glared at Neville fiercely and walked to the other side of the woods. Justin and Dudley. However, it seemed that everyone Hagrid had not yet finished speaking. One thing to note. Just like raising a fortune teller, they may have hairy crabs on them. This caused many students from wizarding families to exclaim in surprise. For example, Anthony was about to write a letter to the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures after class to order one, but he immediately cancelled his decision. Facing the doubts of Dudley and other Muggle-born wizards, Hagrid said, "Hairy crabs are very small parasites. It resembles a crab in appearance, has long teeth, and is only 1/20th of an inch long. They are attracted to magic and can often be found in the fur of crappies and the feathers of auguries. They will destroy magic items like wands and cauldrons, chewing on wand cores, or feasting on potions left on cauldrons. When not in use, the hairy crabs destroy Muggle electrical appliances from the inside out. That's why Muggle electrical appliances suddenly malfunction. Chasing magic? But why aren't there any for wizards and other magical creatures?" Lisa asked. "Because auguries and cuppies don't have the same magical abilities as other magical creatures. The magic on them is more like a permanent state and will not cause changes in the magic magnetic field. The fire breathing of the fire crab and the flight of the hippogriff that we learned before are the same as when we cast magic, which will cause changes in the magical magnetic field. The hairy crabs that have not eaten enough magical substances to swell up cannot withstand the changes in the magical magnetic field." Susan, the real supporting, immediately started advertising, "For hairy crabs that have swelled up due to eating magical substances, you need to contact the staff of the Pest Advisory Office of the Department of Magical Creature Management and Control for treatment." "Is that you?" It was Ernie. He looked at Susan in surprise. He had thought it was Neville just now. Hagrid stepped quickly forward. "Okay, Ernie, let's get back to the topic. Currently, hairy crabs can be treated with common chemicals on the market deworming before adopting a schnauzer. There will be no problem. Furthermore, the crappies themselves were bred by the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. The Pest Advisory staff will treat it before it is sold." So, after class, Hagrid was surrounded by students who wanted to order crappies. Ryan looked at Hermione, whose eyes were sparkling with joy. Ryan, who is a staunch cat supporter, said, "How about we go to Diagon Alley now?" Then, before Hermione could answer, he pulled Hermione across a gray film and appeared on the streets of Diagon Alley. Directly opposite the two of them was a very small shop. Leaving school made Hermione's little face flushed. "Hermione, I think you should choose a ridiculous racist dog instead. Why not take a closer look to see if there is a pet that is more suitable for you?" Ryan shrugged. "Walk into the store. It's just as cramped inside as it looks from the outside." No spell to expand the space was cast. Every inch of the wall was covered with cages. The cages are no longer filled with the usual cats and dogs. The animals for sale here are all very strange: two-headed, tailless newts, poisonous orange snails, giant tortoises with jewel-studded shells, sleek, clever black rats, owls, ravens, cats and toads of all colors, cattails, deformed rabbits, and more. The most eye-catching one here is undoubtedly the transforming rabbit. It looked like an ordinary white rabbit that was just a little fat, and it kept turning into a silk top hat and back again, making loud puffing sounds. Seeing the two people come in, the witch behind the counter quickly said, "This is the shape-shifting rabbit. They will remember the first transformable object they see after they are born. This is my husband's top hat." However, she immediately hesitated. She noticed Ryan and Hermione's appearance. "Students of Hogwarts? You?" When she moved her clothes from Ryan's face, she stopped immediately. "You just heard wrong. I don't have a husband. Merlin's beard. I haven't put on any makeup yet." She pulled out her wand and displayed the highest level of makeup magic in her life, while asking, "What's your name?" "My name is Melina." Chapter 619 Cat and Dog. Perhaps, in some mysterious way, Hermione and the cat named Crookshanks were indeed destined to be together. But Ryan felt that this had something to do with its fur color. "It's got quite a brilliant coat, doesn't it?" grinned Hermione. Just the color of the cat's fur, combined with Hermione's words. You can see that Crookshanks' fur is ginger-colored. It is actually the color of Hermione's hair after it becomes shiny. So much so that she completely ignored her huge size, her bent legs, and her large face that seemed to be flattened. And Crookshanks seemed to see Hermione's sincerity and snorted contentedly in her arms. However, the man and the cat spent less than a minute together. On the other hand, although she had just awakened from Ryan's demonic charm because of his magic, she was still a little confused. But the witch named Melina couldn't help but be surprised. "Why is Crookshanks so kind? If it had been this way, It would have found its owner a long time ago. However, when he discovered that Hermione was not opposed to his honor, and even liked it very much, that's indeed explainable. But when you say that your girlfriend's hair isn't very good, well, then how do you explain Crookshank's behavior? The witch pointed at Ryan. Crookshanks, who usually had a bad temper, turned over smoothly when Ryan stretched out his hand, revealing his fat belly. It's showing obedience. Seeing that the witch was still a little confused, Ryan, who was in a rare good mood, continued to explain patiently, although cats, especially big cats, do this kind of behavior more to use their limbs more effectively and attack the opponent's strong parts more accurately. After all, even if their abdomens are exposed, their limbs can protect their abdomens well. The real sign of weakness is to curl up and lie flat on the ground with your claws and fangs facing downwards. Hearing this, the witch agreed. But Crookshanks is a half-Neasel. The behavior of a catkin is more like that of a dog. A dog with a unique personality. In canines, this represents obedience. Obviously, the catkin's cleverness made it understand who is the most respectable person. Ryan smiled. The cat's tactfulness, and the fact that several other bodies were making progress, further eliminated his aversion to Crookshanks. On the other side, Hermione glanced at Ryan secretly. He heaved a sigh of relief, and then asked the witch, "Can you interrupt me? How long will it take me to take Crookshanks home?" The subsequent process is simple. Hermione paid the witch a silver sickle and took Crookshanks away. Originally, the witch was only willing to accept a copper nut as a symbolic reward. Crookshanks was the one she had kept the longest. She believed that finding a good home for Crookshanks was more important than anything else. But with Hermione's insistence, Crookshanks' value was finally raised to silver west as the basic unit. Parts that Ryan personally made as a leaf on my shoulder in the evening. When Hermione and Ryan returned to Hogwarts, the sun was almost setting far away from Durmstrang's ship and the Black Lake of Casterbush. Hermione and Ryan sat on a hanging chair that looked like a wind chime made of purple bluebells. Crookshanks squatted by the lake and dozed off. "Don't think I'll forgive you just because of this," Hermione suddenly said in a deep voice. Ryan's face was full of question marks. "How dare you talk like that when you have such a handsome boyfriend like him?" If Ryan was still the keyboard warrior Joe Yishi, he would probably angrily call Hermione a whore. "Clear your mind," Hermione reminded. She looked a little annoyed. This was the opportunity for her and Ryan to further their relationship, and a spell was developed in the history of magic to make her sovereign. This she has to say it herself. Obviously Ryan could use a simpler method, just use what he called the power of thinking. "I'm so disappointed." Ryan chose to take the initiative and adopted the simple idea that whoever speaks louder is more reasonable. Seeing Hermione stunned for a moment, he struck while the iron was hot. "Don't you understand yet?" Ryan's voice became sad and low again. His voice stretched out. "Hermione, using her beauty attack." Hermione fell for it, nodded stupidly, and pointed at herself. The fictional reasoning ability that had been awakened before was completely ineffective due to the brain crash. "Yes. It's also you can buy a pet normally. Don't delay the good time you and I spend alone. So, I deliberately used this magic that is so memorable." Ryan lowered his head. Hermione, who didn't see Ryan's charming eyes, cooperated and showed a guilty look. "I thought you would understand." Ryan finally trembled in his heart. He silently chanted, 1, 2, 3. When she counted to 3, Hermione said, "I was wrong." Ryan raised the corners of his mouth. "I thought, fighting with me? You're 100 years too early. Surrendered so quickly. It just thinks its owner is really stupid." In the evening, Ryan and Hermione returned to the lounge and were caught by Jerry. It was wagging its tail from side to side unhappily. Looking at Crookshanks, who was hiding behind Hermione, only daring to show half of his fat ginger, but mistook this for a welcome and timidly turned over and began wagging his tail as well. Jerry was puzzled by this. With normal human intelligence, it can tell that Crookshanks was just obedient but is now flattering. But the cat's behavioral pattern tells it that just now it was showing weakness with a bit of defense and offense, and now it is angry. Then he looked up at Ryan. Ryan quickly picked up Jerry and said, "Just treat it like a dog. It just looks like a cat. In fact, I am not as good as you in terms of pedigree." Jerry raised his little head high when he heard this. After confirming that Crookshanks' pet setting does not conflict with it, he snorted happily in Ryan's arms. Chapter 620 War Without Smoke. Ryan only now deeply realized one thing. That is to treat your girlfriend equally. The fact that Hermione was pregnant with Crookshanks soon became known to the other ladies. First up is Luna. She is the only person besides Hermione who can be with Ryan openly, those who know Ryan, Harry and others. Then there's Kate, who's the best informed. Then of course Penelope and Fleur knew everything. If Nagini hadn't known anything and didn't fight or compete, Ryan would probably be even more aggrieved now. Luna rarely talked to Ryan anymore. When Ryan approached her, she would just let him hold her hand. Kate and Penelope directly refused to have any unspeakable behavior with Ryan. Fleur didn't do that, but apart from her unspeakable behavior, she hardly smiled at him. This completely blocked Ryan's path to advancement. Freezing 3 feet is not a day's cold. Luna and Hermione were openly present among the crowd that knew Ryan vaguely dissatisfied for a long time, although this was their own request at first. Ryan, don't say hello to us at school. You are too young and we feel embarrassed, but they are not reasonable. As for Fleur, she should just follow the crowd and there won't be any big problems. But Luna, that's a little strange. Obviously she already knew Hermione. She was so intuitive that she even noticed Penelope and the others on Sunday morning. With the Final Four approaching, Ryan was still in a bad mood. He didn't even notice why Harry and Ron were going to Hogwarts so early. This is all because Luna is still having a tantrum. Ryan had already dealt with the other people during this time. It was just like a bee flying between flowers. Running around among the 4 people except Hermione and Nagini, it seems that they have forgotten that they can split themselves into 2 and operate in multiple threads. But Ryan did this on purpose after he deliberately acted very tired because of it. The first to smile were Fleur and Penelope. Fleur's relationship with Ryan was originally developed to betray Penelope with Gabrielle's help. Brother looks like he has dark circles under his eyes. Please him, sister, you're only making me feel bad for my brother. As for Penelope, it was all because of Crookshank's terrible appearance. When this ugly yet artistic big cat appeared in front of Penelope, she felt that this was not a gift from Ryan. On the contrary, it's more revenge-like in Kate, a guy with a mind as small as Opie. She forgave Ryan only after he provided additional information about the puzzle, the which did not belong to Ravenclaw House. However, this also made Ryan realize that she and Penelope did not seem to take the puzzle lightly. It was just that there were some reasons that caused them to do nothing in front of him. Then there was no response. In the morning, Luna sat in a high-back chair in the corner, leaning against a small square table, reading a freshly released copy of the Quibbler Her. But Luna ignored him. Even when Ryan put his face close to Luna's little face, Luna still didn't react. The pale eyebrows were motionless. My mom always said that whatever we lose comes back to us, just not in the way we expect. She spoke as if she was reciting a world poem, or singing. Ryan couldn't help but be deeply fascinated by the ethereal tone of voice. Even though Luna was wearing his most hated red stockings today, he didn't care at all. But he forgot that Luna hadn't forgiven him yet, just like Luna deliberately wore red stockings that Ryan didn't like. What I just said was just my reflections on the article. So, when Ryan couldn't help but attack her face again, Luna still didn't react. Just looking at the words in the newspaper. At most, when Ryan is about to stick out his tongue, he can block it with his hand. Ryan then realized that Luna was not talking to him just now. He looked at the newspaper in Luna's hand, where Luna's eyes were when she spoke just now. Ms. Gwen, a witch from Yorkshire, unexpectedly discovered that her long-dead husband Peter was still alive. He married a Muggle woman named Mary Jane and had 3 children. And slightly bizarre story about a wife who discovers her husband is cheating on her. Okay, I surrender. Little Luna, just tell me what you want. Ryan looked at Luna helplessly and added, don't pretend to ignore me. Otherwise, I will lick your hands until they are peeling. The sound of flipping newspapers stopped. Luna blinked and tilted her head. He placed it close to Ryan's ear. I want a pet, too. One as cute as Crookshanks, that's it. Ryan ignored Luna's pour for the moment. After all, she doesn't have this thing herself. Otherwise, in the original world line, why would she dress up such a lovely beauty as herself into a figure that makes people think of a crazy girl? Give everyone else a pet. In fact, Ryan had been preparing to do this. But before Luna could speak, Penelope refused. She said she already had an owl. She is very loyal, not like someone else. There are 3 pets, Jerry, Dr. Freewill the hamster, and Nagini. Kate was very moved but refused. She said she was still a child, don't want to take care of pets other than Ryan, this bastard. Fleur simply hugged Gabrielle and shook her head. She said Gabrielle was annoying her enough, so Until the last one of Luna. Ryan gave up this plan directly as a result. Let's say that if it was Luna who asked the question at the beginning, Luna had reconciled with him a long time ago. So, Melina, the poster girl of the Magic Zoo, saw Ryan again. But this time, the person who was called his girlfriend was replaced by another cute white-haired girl. When Melina was about to open her mouth to denounce the scumbag, as Ryan coughed awkwardly, Melina's eyes lost focus for a moment, then returned to normal. But her words also became, "Welcome to the amazing zoo has. Each one has its own unique abilities." She quickly caught Luna's eye. "Look, this is the cat Neville we just brought in the day before yesterday. Look at the charming spots on the fur, the big ears, and the lion-like tail. Isn't it very charming? We also work with the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. We are qualified to issue licenses to buyers. You just need to take it, and we will take care of the rest." Luna turned her head. "Ryan, I want it." But in Ryan's ears, it was as if he was saying, "Ryan, I want a better pet than Hermione. Isn't Crookshanks part Neville? I'll just get a purebred." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621, Draco Malfoy with permission. The weather in England is mostly rainy. What's even more outrageous is that the rain comes very suddenly, several times in a 4-hour day. Plus a bit of grey sky most of the time. There is no way to judge the suddenness of the rain started. To make matters worse, the road to Hagrid's hut at the edge of the Forbidden Forest was downhill. Plus the grass beneath their feet was soft and wet, and the mud was slippery. It was difficult for the three of them to even quicken their pace and walk quickly. As for Harry, who should have been able to handle it with ease, he had a strong body after transformation, his blood replaced with silver potion, and the magical superb steps that Ryan called lifting that he had trained through fighting the vampire Snape, the headless knight Sirius, and the troll Dumbledore in various environments in hundreds of dreams. However, because of Ron who was hanging on his right side, he could only walk towards Hagrid's cabin, taking one step forward and one step back, like the other two. Not even using magic. However, before they got close, when they were about 100 meters away from the cabin, everything changed. An invisible shield suddenly appeared in midair. It was a cover that looked like an inverted iron pot, made of a medium that would be invisible if it weren't for the rain hitting it and flowing down the edge. The sickening feeling of slipping, sinking and being unable to escape under their feet disappeared. Instead, it was the feeling of walking on a solid, dry, friction-rich cobblestone floor. "It's Hagrid." The three of them looked towards the cabin. The door of the cabin was already open. Hagrid's huge body was already looming behind the door. They looked down and saw that the ground beneath their feet was no longer grass and mud, but stepping in midair. Ron shook off Harry and ran excitedly towards the cabin. The feeling of being suspended in midair and yet having his feet on the ground made Ron like a wild horse. And Draco wasn't much better. A hint of heat and blush slowly emerged on his pale face, which was still wet with cold rain. He walked slowly with his chest puffed out, head held high, and but sticking out in a very strange posture carpet, with a group of reporters carrying cameras on both sides of the red carpet. Draco was giving Harry this feeling right now. However, before Harry had time to think about the two people's behavior, Hagrid's voice ranged in his ears. "Harry, you guys are here." Harry looked up as he was walking quickly forward, but there was no sign of Hagrid. All they saw was Hagrid holding up Hephaestus, both of them waving at them. Ron ran faster, Draco picked up his pace, and even Harry broke into trot. However, as I approached the cabin, a slightly warm and dry feeling swept over my skin. The clothes soaked with rain became dry, and the hair that was wet and mixed with oil also regained its freshness as when I just went out. It was Hephaestus. He stretched out 3 huge hands made of fire and swept them over the 3 people. After a while, Hagrid saw the 3 men had walked into the cabin along the arc fell to the ground with a splash. The door closed automatically, and 3 benches were slightly suspended, drifting like racing cars, and came behind the 3 people, then slowly fell to the floor. "Sit down." All 3 of them sat down. The table by the wall, like the bench just now, appeared in the middle of the room, in front of the 3 of them. Teacups, plates, Knives and forks were all lifted up by a pair of invisible hands and appeared at the elbows of the three people. Steaming tea appeared in the cup, and 3 thick rock cakes and some fried sausages appeared on the plate. Faced with the rock pancakes that they hadn't seen for a long time, Harry and Ron both ate the sausages reluctantly. Only Draco, who had never seen a rock cake before, confidently cut it with his knife, and then, it got stuck. He tried to pull it out with all his strength, but until his veins popped out, the knife remained motionless in the same place. Merlin's beard. What is that? Rock pancakes, very chewy, right? The filling is beef, with black pepper and onions. Hagrid stroked his beard proudly. Leon came over recently, so I made a lot. Do you know that Ryan? Draco couldn't help but become interested in him. He had almost no impression of this person. I can't even remember what he looks like. Harry and Ron were not surprised by Draco's curiosity. They all thought it was because Draco was knocked out of the carriage by Ryan's magic when they were on the train when they first entered school. They had no idea that Draco didn't know what Ryan looked like, and that he had forgotten about it. Ryan, who was choosing an easel with Luna, looked over because his name was called. He smiled slightly. Draco remembered everything on the train and Ryan's appearance. However, he didn't find it strange at all. It seems like I have never forgotten it. Ryan's previous blockade of Draco was entirely due to one thing. That is, the attention of the gods is magical. Although Ryan is only a demigod, he possesses the kingdom of God in the Moon Phantom, which has the ability to change reality almost as well as his alternate world after Dio ascended to heaven in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. His gaze could be described as that of a god. Those he loves will receive invisible blessings, and their fortune and mental state will be much better, and what he hates will naturally make him depressed and unlucky all day long. Draco Malfoy was the guy he had always hated, of course. This dislike is based on the original Draco Malfoy. It has nothing to do with the current world line. Therefore, Ryan would not pay enough attention to him as if it were a curse, but the subconscious malice still exists. Although Ryan can control the magic power caused by this, it consumes a tiny amount of energy that can be recovered in an instant. Spending it on Draco is worthless. But now, Ryan, who is in a good mood because of Luna, agreed to Draco's knowledge of his information. All the memories that were buried in the heart by the hidden magic have surfaced one by one. And it's as if they were on the water from the beginning. Like Ron, he was brought here by Harry. He likes to eat rock cakes, just like Madame Maxime. I also gave him the secret of my hide-and-seek trick. However, he still likes what I do the most. The house elves are not as strong as I am. Chapter 622 Twin-tailed Hagrid. So, Ryan has always come to your place to play? Harry asked with interest. He had thought Ryan would only be with his girlfriends. Unexpectedly, he would come to Hagrid's place so often. Of course, he often discussed stories about magical creatures with me. I remember he showed me a book called Exploring the Mysteries of Unknown Creatures. There are many photos of magical creatures, some extinct, some from mythology, and some first-generation species. First generation? What is the first generation? Ron asked. Well, for example, let's take the phoenix. The first generation is the source of the phoenix, the first phoenix born in the world. This was also the first time I knew the benefits of Ravenclaw. I like writing books extinct and unknown dragons. Draco paused, except for the Pluto dragon. It's so famous. Harry can summon it, too. Yes, there is. Can you imagine? There once existed in this world a transparent and ghostly dragon. They feed on the nightmares of intelligent creatures. Can travel between reality and dreams. Draco's question seemed to open Hagrid's chatterbox, making him start talking non-stop about the extinct dragon species in it. When Draco couldn't help but ask about Hagrid's book, Hagrid took a sip of his tea and smacked his lips. Unfortunately, the book isn't in my possession. I just borrowed it to read. Speaking of this, by the way, he showed me a book not long ago called Things You Don't Know About Ancient Greece. There are several short stories in it, all of which more or less mention the Monster Kingdom, a strange kingdom composed of many beautiful magical creatures. One of them is a travelogue, also written by his ancestors. His name seemed to be William Smith. This William Smith had been to the Forbidden Forest long before Hogwarts was founded. At that time, this was the location of the Monster Kingdom, and it belonged to the Hagrid family's Thunderborn stone Hagrid. Beautiful? The beautiful that Hagrid talks about must be dangerous. Harry muttered subconsciously. When you hear about ancient Greece, you will know that the surname Hagrid existed in ancient Greece. Subconsciously looked at Draco again. Sure enough, as a Slytherin, Draco was still fascinated by Hagrid's ancient family lineage. Even looked a little envious. Your family has such a long history. But Ron's focus was on another aspect. Wait, it is said that this castle belongs to Slytherin. Before this castle appeared, the Forbidden Forest belonged to the Hagrid family. I don't think so. Hagrid was skeptical, but soon came to his senses. I almost forgot that the book The Fall of the Monster Kingdom mentioned that it was caused by the melee between Hagrids and the conflicts between magical creatures due to the predator-prey relationship. Later, Hagrid and his companions left the Dark Forest Way. Hagrid, you asked me to come over. Harry asked. Hagrid had initially asked Harry to come over. Ron and Draco came along. He was actually a little curious about it. Because Hagrid had already accidentally revealed the contents of the individual competition of the championship. He already knew the rest of the things about the contract tree. Draco happened to bring up these stories. Ahem. Hagrid suddenly started coughing. Her face turned red. Then he closed his eyes and said in a desperate tone, I thought it was Ginny who came with you. I have something to ask her. But you and Draco might be fine. He pulled out the 16-inch oak wand that was no longer hidden by the pink umbrella and pointed it at himself. Then, everything changed for Hagrid. The hunter-like outfit made up of various furs became a furry brown suit with a yellow and orange check tie. The tangled hair on her head was tied into 2 ponytails. Seeing Draco frowning at his hair, Hagrid said quickly, I wanted to learn from Bill. His hairstyle seems to be very popular with girls. But apparently, I have too much hair. Hagrid, this hairstyle doesn't suit you. Look, Harry's hair is messy, and no girl likes it. Draco said bluntly. You're doing this for Madame Maxime? Doesn't she like you? Can't you just stay the same as you are? Harry was puzzled. Hey. What do you mean Harry and Draco might be okay? What about me? I have a girlfriend too. And it was Lavender who pursued me. Said Ron, but obviously, none of the other 3 people were willing to care about what he said. Hagrid heard Harry and Draco's comments and waved his wand again. His hair was loose again and his furry suit was transformed back into a fursuit. I just felt that Maxime deserved better from me. I don't want to stop just because she likes me. Harry, I've seen many attractive wizards wear suits and ties. Like Lupin. Maybe that's why Tonks fell in love with him. And Sirius, he likes this too. He was very popular among girls when he was a purple student. There are things like stars and moons embroidered on it. Rum suggested. But he obviously wasn't doing it for Dumbledore. Nor is it because he actually likes the color purple. After all, in the original world line, he broke down because of the purple patterned dress robe. This was all because what he just said was ignored and no one cared. Maxim is not a male. I mean Dumbledore is not ordinary. He, Grindelwald I said, Hagrid said, stuttering at the end. Ron retorts, no. Dumbledore's outfit can also attract women. Madame Pomfrey liked him very much. Professor McGonagall once fell in love with him. What are you looking at me for? I'm telling the truth. It was gossip my mother used to tell. Madame Pomfrey had hinted at this several times, saying for example that she liked Dumbledore's new earmuffs. And Professor McGonagall, need I say anything more? Look at the way she looked at Dumbledore on Christmas Day. I think that's a bit inaccurate, Professor McGonagall. Draco stroked his chin. I remembered that Hagrid once kissed Professor McGonagall because he was drunk. She was not angry at the time, she giggled and blushed. Chapter 623 Dream Wedding. The room is now filled with a happy atmosphere. It's always fun to poke fun at the foibles of famous people you're close to. However, Harry suddenly thought of another question. He looked at Hagrid. Why don't you ask Ryan? You know, he has 2 girlfriends. His advice should be more reliable than those of us honest people. Draco and Ron agreed. They agreed with this However, they didn't know. Harry fantasized about Ravenclaw's Millennium Ghost and his team member Cho Chang, and almost fell in love with young Bella. Ryan? He has 2 girlfriends? Who else besides Hermione? Hagrid pulled out a handful of his beard in shock, then he whispered again, this must be inherited from George. I didn't think he was a good guy back then. Married Lucia took away the flower of Ravenclaw. Draco nodded, his ears twitching slightly. He guessed that the man named George must be Ryan Smith's father, and Lucia should be the mother. And this Lucia must have been quite famous in Ravenclaw back then. On the other side, Hagrid's small black eyes flickered with excitement. Besides, I'm an honest man. Over the years, He has been required to patrol the Forbidden Forest every day and shoot 300 arrows with a bow, restraining one's own desires. If I say I don't want to, that would definitely be a lie. Otherwise he wouldn't have kissed Professor McGonagall while drunk. At the moment, Ryan's skills in teaching his girlfriend had firmly locked his mind. He seemed to be in the Forbidden Forest. The centaurs, led by Magellan and Ronan, surrounded him and Maxim, Hippogriff and the Thestrals carrying Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix. Harry summoned the Pluto dragon from the mirror. Following behind were various beautiful and magical creatures, the fastest flying dragon among the fire dragons, the most beautiful Australian short-nosed dragon with silver-blue scales, the elegant and graceful Sphinx, the ferocious man-hooded lion body Manticore. His mother, who had escaped back to the giant tribe, also appeared behind him, fully dressed. He stood in the center of the crowd, facing Maxim, who was wearing a snow-white wedding dress. He said softly, "Since I was 15, I have been patrolling the Forbidden Forest and shooting 300 arrows every day. This number will keep me in check and prevent me from having any random thoughts. From today on, I will use you as a constraint. Hagrid, Hagrid, Hagrid." Hagrid woke up from his reverie, and what appeared before his eyes was not the beautiful and charming Madame Maxime wearing a crown and tulle, but Ron's long face and his 3 fatal shouts. What? Even the good-tempered Hagrid couldn't help but sound a little angry because he had woken up just not from a sweet dream. But Ron didn't care. "You haven't told me whether you want to learn from Ryan." Just because of this. Hagrid was full of black lines, but he still replied, "How do we learn? He is like the noble phoenix, but we augurs, called the Irish phoenix, can't expect to be loved by people just by flapping our wings like the phoenix. All we can do is hide our maddening chirping noises. Let us win people's favor with our barely gorgeous feathers." Hagrid's words seemed full of bitterness when he was young. He probably had a girl he liked, but his rudeness, appearance, undignified job and other crazy chirping prevented him from standing out from the divination birds. Hence it is called the Irish phoenix. Thinking of this, Harry finally couldn't help but comfort Hagrid. "It's different now. You have Madame Maxime now. It's all over. You are no longer August, but an Irish phoenix." "What do you mean by the past?" Hagrid was puzzled. "Maxim is the only one I've ever really loved since I was born." "Impossible. Then what were you doing when you were young?" Harry looked incredulous. Draco and Ron showed the same expression. Hagrid was a little embarrassed about this. "Hey, Galloping Gorgon. When I was young, hey, just listen. Don't learn. Apart from school, I spent all my time pursuing my hobbies, hiding wolf cubs under my bed, fighting trolls in the Forbidden Forest, hunting with centaurs, and raising Aragog. You will know later that I was expelled because of Aragog. Break the wand. Dumbledore took me in. Gave me the job of gamekeeper. See, Aragog and the other little cuties you eat and drink are all made by me. So, you've never thought of finding a girlfriend in the past 40 years. Draco looked at Hagrid as if he were a monster. He didn't understand how Hagrid, with his strong physique, managed to vent all the excess energy during his adolescence and adulthood. "You calculated wrong, it should be more than 60 years. Hagrid replied. "Ron, what?" "Hagrid, you're over 60? "Harry, when were you born?" "April 1928, 12. "Grandfather." He had always thought that Hagrid was just a few years older than his father. "I didn't expect there was a 30-year gap." Hagrid said unhappily. "Are you all confused? Didn't you already know Voldemort's identity, Tom Riddle? He was in 5th grade when I was in 3rd grade. Aragog. We know that you know Voldemort, but I didn't expect this to be my acquaintance." Ron stood in awe for some reason, then asked in a dignified tone, "What did you feel when you saw Professor Riddle?" "I don't feel anything," Professor Dumbledore said. The previous Riddle had gone through the Horcruxes and was stripped of his relatively good qualities. Students almost all professors like him, but Dumbledore saw in him a dangerous, crazy, reckless side. Sure enough, Dumbledore was right. He had abandoned the qualities that would have made him a great wizard, choose to become a dark wizard, the most evil dark wizard. Chapter 624, Ritual in the Secret Room. It was difficult for Ryan not to know about Hagrid's conversation. After all, later on, Hagrid actually mentioned Ryan's parents' names. So, even when he and Luna had returned to the Ravenclaw common room and were playing the pounce game with a blue-skinned catkin named Burr, he still listened to all the conversations in Hagrid's cabin. This made him discover something. That was the matter of Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets and the Basilisk, which Riddle and Dumbledore had not told anyone else. All Hagrid knew was that young Voldemort had turned him in. And Myrtle's death may be related to Voldemort. Interestingly, this was not revealed to Snape either. It was obvious that the 1,000-year-old basilisk skin was given to Snape by Riddle as a Christmas gift. But neither of them mentioned any further information. Snape didn't even ask Riddle, who could be considered his former boss, questions like where did such a 20-foot-long basilisk skin come from. Thinking of this, Ryan's gaze passed through the lounge floor to the bathroom on the 3rd floor, the complex pipes, and finally the room filled with green and mysterious mist. The room-high monkey-faced statue is still there. But in a corner of the room that was originally an empty space, there are new decorations. It was a shrine of need. Deep oak, the deity is the crucifix. But his face was carved to look like Riddle. A golden clock flashed in Ryan's eyes. The image of that room began to rewind. Rewind to last Saturday morning. Tom Riddle crawled out of the pipe like an ordinary muggle, making a pilgrimage. Come to this room, in front of the shrine. He was dressed in the common black priest attire. With a silver cross, wonderful magical ritual. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit of the Trinity are all referred to by himself. The pure patterns on his clothes, the statues of gods, the cross, the adapted scriptures, and even his own body made up this grand and mysterious ceremony. Riddle's holy magic, after being stripped of original sin, was transformed into nothingness through the scriptures and was born again from the statue. As his gaze returned to the cross and along the lines reflected on his clothes, it returned to his body. Every time it passes through a round, it seems to have been shaped by iron and fire. Just like iron becomes tough steel after repeated hammering. The holy and devilish mystery in the magic power becomes deeper and deeper. I can't believe he turned his back on science and turned to theology. Ryan couldn't help but sigh in the Ravenclaw lounge. Luna was keenly aware of Ryan's direction again. Are you referring to Professor Riddle? He does look like a devout priest. Well, then tell me about your feelings towards Dumbledore and the man who was next to Dumbledore at the start of term feast and was so affectionate towards him. Luna frowned when she heard this. Dumbledore? He exudes a pure wizard temperament. Even an ordinary person who doesn't understand anything can make the connection from the first sight of him. Like for that person? He is more like a leader, a serious judge. The other side parents were dating under your watch? Ahem. Let me ask, are these two really my father pursuing my mother? Draco, my question may be a little unreasonable. I also know that my parents must have been very disliked by you at that time. But, wasn't my mom and dad really a marriage of convenience? I mean, my mom is so beautiful. My dad went bald at a young age. Hagrid said that he was still a boy in his 30s at the time and didn't know much about sex. By the time he and Arthur became familiar with each other, they were already a couple. As for Draco's parents, he always thought they were bad people and they looked down on him, so they didn't understand him at all. Seeing Harry preparing to speak, Hagrid said quickly, I still can't say anything about Lily and James. If I tell you, it will probably affect the image of your father in your mind. But I can guarantee that James did become a good boy later on. Harry was frowning. He already knew about the affair between his parents and Snape. So he quickly said, wait, my problem is different from theirs. I want to ask, are you and Myrtle classmates? Although she hasn't been sneaking around on me since Ginny and I got engaged. But it was said that she still called out my name while wailing in the bathroom on the 3rd floor. What if she relapses into her old ways and becomes that me again? Anyway, Hagrid, can you? You might as well ask about your father and mother. Hagrid blew his beard unhappily. She is a Ravenclaw student, I'm a Gryffindor. You all know that before the 6th year, Ravenclaw and Gryffindor never had a single class scheduled together. I was expelled in the 3rd grade, and she became a ghost. I don't know her at all. Besides, as a professor, is it appropriate for me to go to the girls' bathroom? If you want, it's not impossible. Harry said with a dazed look. He didn't want to be bothered by Myrtle anymore. Especially now that Myrtle looks almost like a living person. He is also a normally developing boy. What if Myrtle took something she shouldn't have while he was sleeping? That's bad. He wouldn't mind if it was Helena, but forget about Myrtle. As for the Ravenclaw Tower, its defenses have been repaired and Myrtle can no longer enter. I still have some doubts about this. When Myrtle spied on him bathing before, Ravenclaw's tower was not yet known to be inaccessible to ghosts, except for the Grey Lady. The results of it? Therefore, in order to eliminate this risk, even if Hagrid came into the girls' bathroom, it wouldn't be a big deal. What you said, Hagrid felt a little unbelievable. Don't want Myrtle to ruin Harry's relationship with my sister. You guys, Hagrid looked at Draco, the only one who didn't speak. You ask me. Draco pointed at himself. I think Harry is overthinking. Didn't I say this before? The reason why Myrtle was able to enter Ravenclaw's tower because she is the ghost of Ravenclaw, or a ghost who died while a student of Ravenclaw. Hasn't this loophole been plugged by now? Ron, as you say. What if Harry gets taken away from me? My sister doesn't want second-hand stuff. Harry was so annoyed. What are you talking about? Cuckolding is all nonsense. Chapter 625, Living Alchemy Puppet. After Dumbledore took out his wand and pointed it at the sky, the gloomy sky cleared up again. The competition started in full swing. Right on the Quidditch pitch. Elements like weather have no effect on wizards at all. The reason this isn't done during Quidditch matches is simply because bad weather is considered part of the game. It was as if the grass beneath most playing fields had no protective spells at all. Quidditch players are so popular. They literally risk breaking their necks. As for the playing field, it has taken on a completely new look. The stands around the Quidditch pitch were changed into 4 colors. This is the same color as the robes of the 4 schools: sky blue for Buttons, bright green for Expelliarmus, blood red for Durmstrang, and plain black for Hogwarts. Students from the 4 schools sat in areas of different colors. Coats of arms of the 4 schools. The Hogwarts logo is a lion, an eagle, a badger, and a snake connected together, surrounding a capital letter H. Buttons' were 2 golden crossed wands, each with 3 stars on it. Durmstrang's is a 2-headed eagle and a deer head, with Cyrillic letters. Castrabush is a Capella, a small, furry spirit with a penchant for playing practical jokes, who guards the grounds and buildings of Castrabush and keeps an eye on the students and creatures that live in the jungle under the cover of night, with a capital C underneath. The grass on the ground was covered with a layer of faint blue light. On top of it are 4 tablets made of black metal. They seem to be connected to the entire, with no gaps visible at all of them. Neither the judges nor the professors stayed in the stands. They sat at a long table below, facing 4 metal tablets. Dumbledore stood alone not far from the metal monument, with a baby dragon dozing at his feet. The students on the stage were all looking at the parchment in their hands and muttering to themselves. "Is that a dragon?" asked Draco, who was looking through the telescope at Dumbledore's feet. Being a huge fan of fire dragons, he couldn't even recognize the species of the baby dragon. The young dragon had a very metallic texture and looked very much like some kind of alchemical puppet. But paradoxically, it is breathing subtly. "I don't know," Harry replied. But his expression was extremely calm, as if the answer would fall from the sky. Even more suspicious, as Ryan was clearly not there. There were 2 seats behind him, Harry and Ron. One is Granger, the female academic who tied for first place with Lane Smith. The other is the Lovegood child. She was friends with Ginny. Ginny had mentioned her. But the strange thing is that no one responded to this weird request except Harry himself of them, and Ryan Smith was one of them. He could just answer Harry's question, and this answer seemed to convince Harry, Ron, Neville and Ginny. Even the answer has yet to be spoken. This is simply ridiculous. What was even more outrageous was that after Granger admitted, he actually said to the girl from the Lovegood family, "Ryan, there is something wrong with Harry." What the hell? That girl is Lane Smith? Could it be that he drank the Polyjuice potion? However, if it is true, taking Polyjuice potion to become a girl is such a shameless and vulgar thing. Harry and the others actually knew that Ryan had this habit, but they didn't know, is Ryan Smith a metamorphagus? Like his cousin Tonks? Just as Draco was thinking about everything in front of him, a clear voice sounded, "Okay." With that word, Draco remembered everything he had neglected. He, Harry, and Ron are clearly 3 people. There should be 3 seats in the back. How come he always thought there were only 2 seats and didn't find it strange? Besides, that Ryan Smith was clearly between Granger and the Lovegood girl. Why did he turn a blind eye? Could it be that Ryan Smith cast a powerful interference spell on himself? Can he make people around him ignore him and turn a blind eye to all the unreasonable things? This is indeed possible. The Elvis of Castrobus have the ability to predict the future constantly. Ryan Smith of Hogwarts, the one who could use wandless magic to knock Draco Malfoy away without hurting him all before he officially started school, it was only normal for him to cast an interference spell on himself. Just as Draco was thinking this, Ryan spoke. "This is the alchemical puppet. It wasn't some rare, unrecognizable dragon species. As for why it can breathe, doze, and everything else, it looks just like a living creature. You won't be surprised if I tell you the name. Nycphlimal mithril, dragon blood, fire-breathing potion and other materials, combined with sophisticated alchemical techniques. As long as it is injected with magic, it will come to life and can breathe fire, fly, and breathe like a real dragon. Harry agreed and asked, then why did Dumbledore bring out this alchemical puppet? And there is also the blue light and metal monument on the lawn. Obviously, it's the object of your group magic. Do you still remember the group magic effects corresponding to the 3 spells you learned, conquering resistance, strength, and speed? This alchemist puppet will convert all the blessings you give it into destructive power. These metal tablets are props for testing destructive power. The reason why the metal monument is connected so closely to the ground is to allow the ground to share part of the destructive force of the overload lawn. Ryan answered casually. Harry, Ron, Neville, Ginny, Hermione and Luna all understood. Wait, you guys didn't all believe it? Draco said quickly. He was still a little skeptical about this. Thanks to Yumantonglo, Teshiyumaksu, Long Shiangxiu for their monthly tickets and other classmates for their recommendations and subscriptions. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.